repeat. I'm like, what's going on? Why is it on repeat or something? What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of More Than a Title, episode 197, our 6th episode for Women's History Month. I'm your host, as usual, Jarrett, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital. You know I got my brother, my brethren, your favorite CEO, Cuzzo. What's the vibes?
Technical difficulties again, man.
Everything.
What the fuck is going on? Every day we can't never get a good thing going here, man. Like Instagram, get your head out of your ass. Like, God damn! Like every time we go to load this thing up, man, it's always an issue with y'all, man. We're about to boycott Instagram, man. But you know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another show of More Than a Title, and we're gonna have another phenomenal show with another phenomenal guest. I'm putting it out there now, so don't say I didn't warn you, right? And I haven't been wrong yet. So you know how we like to start the show, always G&T, grateful and thankful. And you know, we just gonna keep it real basic today, man. Just grateful once again to just wake up and be able to do this thing that we love yet again, right? We actually stayed up real late into the wee hours in the morning working on some real big things for you guys coming up, man. We've been grinding the gears and really, you know, trying our best to get this show to the next level for you. So, you know, grateful for the fact that we're able to take this journey. I'm grateful for my cousin. We're able to take this journey together and learn together and grow together. And I'm thankful for you guys because every time we give you guys something and something new and something fresh, you guys give us the positive feedback like you love it, keep going. And that's what motivates us, man. So that's what it is, man. G&T. Grateful and thankful.
Show up, man. And also, I'm going to say just thankful for all our guests, man. Thankful for everybody who's pulled up to make this platform what it is, man. Shout out to y'all. And shout out to our brother Haji, man. So before we introduce this queen, man, I got to introduce, you know, shout out Big Bro. So he was a guest of ours, came on the show, advertising legend, introduced us to Gwen and said, you got to have on the show. We made it happen within less than a month. You know what I mean? It was about a word, and we're going to make it happen. So I'm grateful for our community, man. Real talk. So before we get it in, you know, shout out to our other sis. Angel Live is an entire live team, live podcast network, the first woman-owned, black-owned podcast network. So if you want more content, like More Than a Title, make sure you take your phone out, download the app, scan the QR code, and make sure you subscribe. And half of your subscription goes to the content creator of your choice, man.
It is.
We walk it, you know what I mean? So we with ours, man. Shout out to Angel, baby.
Talk it like I walk it. Talk it like I walk it.
Yeah, I mean?
Let's start the show.
Boy, ready, so I'm ready, man. Let's get it popping, man. So let's introduce her. She's a true game changer in the beauty industry. She's the founder and CEO of Naturalicious. She has built a 7-figure global brand that's not only transforming the hair care experience, but reshaping the narrative around natural beauty and entrepreneurship. She's a trailblazer in every sense of the word, becoming the first African-American woman to hold a patent for natural hair care formulations, an achievement that opened doors and raised the bar for innovation across the board. So from turning a personal need into a global empire, scaling her brand into over 1,200 retail stores nationwide, y'all, and all while empowering women to reclaim their time and their confidence. So you've seen her in the rooms. You've seen her in the style. You've seen her on Glamour. You've seen her in Vogue. You've seen her on all the biggest publications. And now today, for the very first time, she's rocking with your favorite podcast to get celebrated for Women's History Month. Let's introduce our sis, CEO of Naturalicious, Gwen Jimmere, y'all. Hey! Come on, man. You seen her. You see her outside. She working.
She outside. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, just to let you know, she's a proud rapper of Detroit. You see the sweater, Detroit versus everybody.
Shout out to everybody. You know?
She want all the smoke. I love it.
That's what it is. So you know how we like to start. Since we're gonna celebrate you, we're gonna have a great effing time. And how we usually like to start, we like to talk about the beginning. Tell us about growing up, some of the early influences in your life.
Yeah, well, I do have to say, first of all, that was an amazing intro. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to get a copy of that and take it on the road with me. Like that was really good, you know. That was awesome. Yeah, and I also have to say, I do rep Detroit. I've been in Detroit for 16 years now, but I'm originally from Cleveland. And so I have to say that because my Cleveland people will come for me if they see me with the Detroit shirt and not saying nothing about Cleveland. So I'm originally from Cleveland, Bone Thugs and Harmony, all that, East 1999, whatever. But I do rep Detroit now. So Yeah, so thank you for having me.
I mean, since you brought it up, I got a comment. That is one of my favorite groups of all time. I'm not going to lie. Back in my high school days, we used to sit upstairs and burn them cassettes out trying to love hand. Double time rhyme was crazy. Took us like 3 weeks. Okay, now I understand it.
Yeah, I still don't know what I had to stop this they be saying, but you know, it sounds good though, right? So.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to them too. They like the podcast. Shout out to them, man, on the check.
That's a fact. That's why I said that. Yeah. They show love, man. Yeah. Shout out to Bone Thugs, man.
Yeah, for sure. So to answer your question, my beginning, oh my goodness. Well, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, like I said. And I did all the things in the quote unquote right order. You know, I graduated valedictorian from my high school. I went to college, graduated in college in 2.5 years, went to grad school, and, you know, did all the right things, got married, had a baby, so forth and so on. I worked at Ford Motor Company for a little while. I got to do some really, really cool things there. I was the global digital communications director at Ford when I was 25 years old.
Woo!
So I was
Hold on.
That wasn't part of the bio.
Slow down. Right. Slow down. Now we got to add that as paragraph B. Slow down. Slow down.
Communication manager at Ford.
At Ford, I was 25 years old, fresh out of grad school. You know, I had quote unquote made it, right? I was this girl from the hood of Cleveland, and I got uprooted, moved to Detroit for that job. And I got to do some real cool stuff. Like I remember being at the Detroit Auto Show, sitting next to Nelly, he and I tweeting, you know, in rooms with Ludacris when he was pitching us to sponsor one of the Fast and Furious movies. Yeah, all kind of cool stuff I got to do. A cushy 6-figure job while my friends were still trying to figure out their first jobs. But all that came with a cost. You know, it was a lot of questioning of my credentials, questioning if I should even be there, if I was a DEI hire. Message.
That's real.
If I was an affirmative, if I was, you know, was this affirmative action hire? You know, was this a quota that had to be met? You know, a lot of me having to prove myself that I deserved to be in the room, despite the fact that the CEO at the time thought I was more than qualified and had beat out over 1,000 candidates across 5 interviews for that job.
Talk about
it. You know, I think a lot about that in terms of, especially when we think about women's history and, you know, crowning ourselves as women, as Black women, you know, in our glory. A lot of times we are made to shrink into spaces that aren't built for us. You know, that's a very heavy burden that a lot of us carry, despite the fact that we are the most educated, despite the fact that we are creating businesses at exponentially fast rates compared to other demographics, you know? I appreciate the whole time.
I want you to slow down. Can you just repeat one more time how many people you beat out for that job? Like, the audience needs to hear that one more again.
Over 1,000 candidates applied for that job. And we had 5, everybody who, you know, made it to a finalist basically had to go through 5 interviews. And so I got that position. And I was not even a whole year out of grad school at that time. Damn! So y'all with these.
No, we gotta know. We gotta get to the shits now.
Over here, guys.
Woo, to the shits. Let's get to the shits. Right? So you beat out. Real quick, you beat out all these people, right? You're saying people were questioning your ability.
Yes.
Was it what made you think that if you got the green light from the CEO? Why did the outside, like, you know what I mean? Why, like, what was it? Like coffee break chatter? Like, just explain it to us from corporate.
Yeah. So some examples were, you know, I remember just things being put on me that would never have been put on other people. Gotcha. So I remember my boss calling me as a part of the job with all these perks came, I got a company car. I also got a company cell phone, but that cell phone also meant you were tethered to the company. Right. And so what they say had to be done. And so calling me at 3 a.m. demanding reports to get done by 4:30 because he had a meeting at 6 because he didn't get it done. So this was a regular occurrence. Or deciding, at the last minute to have Saturday meetings at 7 a.m. We don't work on Saturdays, but having a meeting on Saturdays at 7 a.m. that I had to lead, and I was told this Friday night, for example, like things, just testing my abilities. And what are you going to do? You got to show up, you got to prove, right? Because unfortunately, when you are the one of many, right, in a room of folks that don't look like you, you are the representative, right? So it's like, I got a representative. I got to represent, show and prove that we belong here, because quite frankly, when we are put into spaces like that, we don't just belong in the rooms, we transform those rooms. And I had to ensure that they knew that anybody who was coming behind me belonged there too, you know? And so it was about solidifying my space, but then also ensuring that the legacy behind me came along and they would have the opportunities that I had been given, you know?
It's a lot of pressure.
Before we go on, I want to talk about that type of pressure. I want to talk about all the things that's not on the job description when you applied for it. See, that 3 a.m. call, that wasn't on the job description. That working on a Saturday when we don't work on, see, people don't understand that when you get these big responsibilities, right? That there's a lot of things that they're going to ask of you that wasn't discussed during the interview process, right? Now, you do have the ability to say no, because guess what? That person calling you at 3 a.m., he didn't think about how that might affect maybe your significant other. That's like, wait a minute, why is somebody calling you at 3 a.m.? Your boss is calling you at 3 a.m. You understand? He didn't think about how that might affect your family life, how that might affect your sleep pay. He didn't think about none of that. You understand?
Yeah.
You had the ability to say no or not answer the phone, but you knew that unspoken consequences would have came from that had you not performed. So can we just talk about mindset of understanding you're gonna do these extra things that you might not be compensated for or even recognized for in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, and there were other things too. So another example was, so there were what they call LL levels at Ford, and that stands for leadership level. And so most people, when they come into Ford, they're a regular employee, they work at the company, they retire, they get a pension, what have you, right? If you become an LL, that means that you are essentially a manager of some sort. It starts from LL1, goes down to LL6. So LL1 is the CEO, on down to an entry-level manager at LL6. Most people, if they become an LL at any point in their career at Ford, it takes them 4 years to get from LL6 to LL5, and then another 3 to 4 to get to LL4, right? So you're going up the ladder.
Gotcha.
Me, I walked in the door as an LL4. So
hold on. I missed the horn on that one. I didn't expect it.
I walked in the door as an LL4. So you can imagine the questions. You know, it's like, she just graduated. Like, she ain't pay her dues. And, you know, like, what is she doing here? Again, is she a DEI hire? That sort of thing. And so it was never directly asked of me, but you could tell in the questions that will come in meetings, or even the LL2, which was basically the executive vice president level, sending me grammar tests to essentially test my intellect to see if I was equipped to represent the company on a global scale. But it was never said, hey, this is a grammar test. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know what it is. And it was like, hey, I need this edited. Can you edit this for me? That's not my role.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
Word. But you gotta play the game. Gotta keep playing
the game. You gotta play the game. And it's like, I gotta send that grammar test back and it's gonna be flawless, honey. You know, and so, you know, I gotta make sure it's done again to ensure I still have a job. But beyond that, there's people, and I always knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I know we're going to get to that. So I didn't know how long I was going to be at Ford, but I knew that there were other people who were going to come behind me. There was some other Black girl or Black guy or person of color, even if they weren't Black, coming behind me who was going to apply for this job. And if I didn't show up, they were automatically going to be disqualified.
Next out, yep.
But
can we, I'm curious now, because you're going in first of all, most people where we come from aren't going to be the global communication manager at Ford. Don't even know what to go study, what to go look for, what is the path towards that, right? So I'm curious, like, what did your parents do? Like, what was the influence they had, and what kind of made you go that route? Like, what was the aha moment for you?
Yeah, so my dad was a supervisor at the post office. So he didn't deliver mail, but he managed like the region or what have you, right? Of mail carriers. So he worked in the office, he wore a suit and tie and all that sort of stuff. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My whole life, my mom stayed at home and was on my back. You know? I was, you know, I better bring home good grades. C's was for clowns, D's was for dummies, and F's was for failures, according to her. And so, you know, if I brought home either one of those, I was automatically on punishment for an entire semester. And I brought home one C one time, and I never do that again. Because shout out to my mom, but it was, I mean, she was tough, you know, in terms of making sure. My dad was chill. My dad was like so cool. He was like, she'll be all right, you know. But my mom was like, no, like education is the way. You gotta make it. Right. And I really feel like she bred me to be to perform with excellence. She was like, we're not gonna half-ass anything. I remember writing papers and not wanting to do it. And I have a 14-year-old myself now, so I see it, and I find myself holding myself back. But I would be writing a paper and she would take it, she would read it, she's like, this ain't good. She would rip it up, make me start over. And we ain't have ChatGPT at the time, right? So like everything's coming off the dome. I got to write the whole thing from scratch, But she really ensured that I showed up with excellence at every turn. There was no sidestep and there was no half-assing. It was like either you're gonna do it or you're not. You're gonna do it right, or you're not gonna do it at all. And so that has served me exceptionally well in my entrepreneurship journey. But at the time, at 15, 16, it was just like, why are you on my back so much? But I understand it as an adult.
It's needed.
I mean, you said you graduated college in 2.5 years?
Yeah, because I started.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, though, she flew past, like, I graduated college 2.5 years. like she did.
And bro, home and see it, mama flipped.
Right. Like for us, growing up in urban cultures, right, to even go to college is such a big deal. Right? But, so most colleges that are not, JCOs, right? 4-year universities. And you're like, I knocked that out in 2.5 years. Again, that's a direct testament to the work ethic that your mother instilled in you in high school, that you rode that wave all the way through college, no problem. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be honest, that takes a real level of dedication to go to college. Did you go away from home, like on campus and stuff like that? Did you live on like campus? Did you have that experience?
I did, but I really wanted to go to Xavier University, which is HBCU in Louisiana. Okay. But I'm from Ohio, and my mom, because what happened with me was I actually started college in high school, right? So I was taking my 11th, that's why I graduated so early. Right. So my 11th and 12th grade year, I was a freshman and a sophomore in college at the same time, right? So I was doing dual enrollment.
Right.
And so by the time I went to actual college, I was already a junior, right? So my mom, because I was still technically 18, but a junior, she was like, I don't want you to go away because I really need to have like eyes and ears on you. And so,
you're this close to the finish line. Your ass not gonna go out there and wild out.
That's what we talking about, right? Because she like, nah, because she knows she was holding you tight to home, and she like, I let her go, she gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
I got to keep her a little longer.
So I did live on campus, but I went to Kent State University, which is only like 45 minutes from Ohio, from where I lived at in Cleveland.
Okay,
got you.
Yeah, I like it.
So I, as a parent now, I give my son a lot of. My mom ain't let me go nowhere, right? I couldn't even like go around the corner. I had to stay on the street, So he has a lot of freedom with limits. Obviously, there's more technology that allows us to be able to track our kids than was available back then. So I have ears and eyes on him, but from a technology standpoint, where she didn't have that option. But I want him to travel the world. Like if he wants to go to UCLA, and I'm like, baby, go live your life, enjoy this world, like I'm not trying to stifle you, but I understand why she did it. But yeah, I did get the college experience, but she was only 45 minutes away. If something jumped off, she was like, I'm coming down there.
Let me ask you a question. Do you, hindsight is always 20/20, and we always talk about this, right?
Yeah.
It's the balance between trying to grow up but still live life and have these experiences before you like go straight into a career and get focused. Do you actually now regret like being so focused and not getting a chance to kind of run crazy, or are you like, you know what, I'd rather have done it the way I did it, got it out the way, and now I focused on my career and got established? Like which one are you leaning towards on that?
That's a great question. And I think about this kind of often. I'm so glad that you asked it. So I kind of do wish that I had slowed down. Right. I wish that I had, because I have friends from college, but I don't have like deep rooted friendships from college. Right. Like there's people that I see and it's like, oh yeah, like I knew you from campus. Oh, how you doing? Da, da, da. We'll see each other on the street. I get invited to some of their, events and things like that when I'm back in the city. sometimes, but I don't have I have those from high school, but I don't have those from college because I was so focused on just getting out of there and being done. Like I said, my mom kind of bred me to be like this, almost like overachiever. So it was like, well, technically I could finish in 3, but let me see if I can finish in 2, and so I had to unlearn a lot of that as I've gotten older. I don't always have to be gunning for something. Sometimes you can just enjoy the process and enjoy the ride. And my son, he is going to get his rest. He's not going to let you overwork him. I'm done, And so it's so frustrating for me because I grew up with a mom who was like, go, 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 go. There's no rest time. There's no free time. I remember wanting to go to church camp in the summer. All my friends went and I wasn't allowed to because I had to take summer accelerated math classes. But that, so yes, I understand why she did it because she grew up very poor. She grew up in Tennessee. My parents were older when they had me. My mom was 36 when I was born, which is not older for a mom now, but it was older for a mom then, right? Absolutely. And so she was 36. My dad was 41. And so they were quote unquote older parents. And she grew up very poor. She had 9 brothers and sisters. She wasn't really close with a lot of them because her mom was very poor and had to split the kids up and kind of sent them to live in different places, So she was kind of like this orphan who also knew her mom, so to speak. It had a lot of challenges with that. And she was just like, if I had somebody who had, tight reins on me, talking about herself, she felt like she could have made it. She went to college, didn't finish. She met my dad and they had my sister. And then some years later, they had me. But I think she saw a lot of what she felt was her potential in me. And so she was like, I'm going to make sure that you succeed and don't make the mistakes that I did. So I understand it. But yeah, I wish that I had kind of slowed it down a little bit and really built up those deep-rooted friendships. Because that's really, to me, that's almost like what college is about. I mean, yes, you go there and you get a degree, but it's really about building those relationships, those networks, and I didn't really get a chance to do that.
Real. But how did you get to communications? Was it because you at that pace and what you're doing, you could have chose anything. Mm-hmm. Anything. So what was that for you that you said you're going into communications? Because not too many people, go that path when you're doing what you do. Yeah. So I will tell you, originally, I actually went to college undergrad. I originally wanted to go to school for medicine. So I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And so I went, so when I was in high school, I was taking the college classes and I did pre-med. And I learned very quickly, this ain't for me, right? This is not what I thought this was what I wanted, but this ain't it, right? I remember being in school, I love dissecting. We always dissect frogs and cats and, I like that kind of stuff. But the rest of it, I was and I really don't think I want to be in school for 42 years. So let me just find something else. So then I wanted to go to school because I like being on camera. So I was like, well, at the time, being an MTV VJ was a thing. So I was like, oh, maybe I could be a VJ on MTV. Let me go to school for that, right? You
so
Lala out here? Mama with a beach.
I like it. She said, I could be free from Detroit.
Yeah, 106 and Park was on when I was a freshman in college.
Yeah.
I was like, free, I'm coming. You gonna be my mentor. No, seriously, I remember I even auditioned for when Free and AJ left, and then they were doing the BET New Faces search, and then Terrence J and Roxy got that job. I think it was Jaleesa at first, and then Roxy came along. Me and my homegirl, we actually drove from Kent State to Chicago to audition for that job. Clearly, we ain't make it, but we did audition for it.
I like it.
But yeah, that's what I wanted to go to school for. And I was like, well, I may not get that right out the gate because that's a national, thing to be on MTV or BET. But maybe I could get started with local, news and then kind of parlay myself into a national thing. My mom, she was like, Gwen, you ain't gonna make no money. Yeah, so she was like, this was Bush was still in office, right? Yeah. So, gosh, this sounds so long. It makes me sound so old, but Bush was in office and the war was going on, like my freshman year. And she was like, the second Bush, not the first Bush. I ain't that old. And so
we old, sis. We old. we getting there, sis.
That's why I ain't say that, but I'd be like, which Bush? I don't want to date her. Like, you want to date the age on it. Okay, second Bush.
Yeah. And so then the war was happening. And my mom was like, she just painted this picture for me. And she's like, Gwen, you know, you're going to be out there on the front lines of the war. They always had a new people right on the front lines. You're going to have bombs going off behind you. It's going to be fire everywhere. And, you know, and you're going to be broke. Like, do you really want to do that and not make no money? I'm like, that don't sound good at all, you know. So,
your mama wasn't letting go that broke card.
Yo, you had me to broke.
She
said, my baby gonna get the bag. I don't care what I gotta do. She gonna get this bag, man. So, I ain't mad at her.
So my mom was a very good salesperson. She's very good at like selling things, right? So she just really paid. She didn't force me to change my major, but it was kind of like, I ain't paying for this if you don't change your major. You know, so she really wasn't paying for it to begin with, honestly. But anyway,
I mean, graduating valedictorian, I would think that you had a complete free ride. Graduating valedictorian, I would think that you had a complete free ride to college. No, there was a bunch of scholarships.
I had not a complete free ride. I had a mostly free ride.
Okay.
So,
because colleges love valedictorians. I'm just telling you right now, like they're the first ones to get the academic scholarships and you know, pick the lid of any school they want to go to. So
yeah. So I mean, I had like my school was paid for, right? Okay. But I still had like they didn't cover like my books, stuff like
that. And the room and board too was
that covered? Okay. Yeah, room and board was covered, but my books wasn't covered. Okay. Living expenses wasn't covered. Okay. You know, my friends, they had loans, and so they would get like refund checks. It wasn't no refund checks for me, you know. So, so like whatever, you know, and so yeah, it was just like I'm just out here living, you know, trying to like make some money to do stuff, you know. So anyway, basically, she convinced me to change my major to computer science, and totally like different brain activity, right? So I am a creative at heart. And so me doing computer, I cannot tell you how I graduated, but I did. And I graduated with honors, but I can't tell you how to program a thing, right? So, and I couldn't tell you how to
program in the microwave.
With a microphone, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. But I graduated summa cum laude, but you know, and that's another reason why I wish I would have spent more time in college, because it's like, I have this degree that I really don't want it. I don't even want this degree, right? It's not something that brings me joy. It's not something I'm excited about, but I just rushed through it so I could get done so quickly. And I wish that even if I did change my major to that, I would have still spent time to get to know people more and build deeper bonds and have, you know, deeper rooted relationships. So changed my major to computer science, graduated from college, immediately moved to Columbus, Ohio. I was dating a guy at the time. He lived there. So I moved to Columbus where he was. Bad move. That's neither here nor there.
What the is wrong with this guy? Am I getting me or what?
Yeah.
Like, yo, why did I move with you, bro?
I know you
still not recommend zero stars on Yelp. Like, I don't recommend it at all.
Not 0 stars on Yelp.
Horrible. But anyway, so I moved there with him. That's a whole nother podcast.
Man.
But while I was there, he and I ended up breaking up. And my mom was like, well, you can come back home. You can come back home. You know, you always welcome back home, you know. So she's like, move back home, but you got 1 year. You can live here for free for 1 year. After that, you got to start paying rent. And I was like, okay, that's fair. You know, at this point, I was, you know, in my 20s. And I know that my mom and my dad would have let me stay there for the rest of my life if I wanted to, you know, but my mom also didn't want me to be complacent. So it was like, well, you got a year and then you figure out what you're going to do. So while I lived there for that year, she made it so uncomfortable. Like, it was like, you gonna be out of here in a year, girl. Like, she was like, okay, listen, so my house closes at 11 p.m.
I was about to say she gave you a curfew. I know.
I don't think the house is 11. Talk about. And so, I'm on this curfew. Like, I done went from being in college with pretty much no curfew to living on my own with also no curfew. And now I'm older. Now, keep in mind, when I was in high school, I was the only one of my friends that had a car, right? So I was the ride for everybody. And at the time, I was saying my mom was real smooth. She was real slick about this stuff. My curfew in high school was 1 a.m. But let me tell you, it really wasn't 1 a.m. It was 1. That's what she said. But ain't nobody at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Yeah. All my friends had to be home by 10 or 11. So it's like, what am I be doing? Driving around for 3 hours? You know what I mean? So she would make me feel like I had all this all this privilege. But it's like, really, what you gonna be doing at 11? Again, this is the late 90s, early 2000s. So technology wasn't what it was now. There was no social media. You know what I mean? It's just everything shut down. So even though I had a curfew at 1 o'clock, I really was in the house by like 10:30, 11 o'clock. So when I get out of college, I moved back home for a little less than a year. And she's like, yeah, so my house closes up at 11, kitchen closes at 7:30. So, if you need to
if you can get a hot pocket at 8.
If you need to eat after 7:30, either you make it yourself, don't ask me for nothing. Either you make it yourself or you go find something. And you can go out and hang out with your friends, but after 11 o'clock, I don't know what you're gonna do because my house locks up. So I didn't really go nowhere for that year because I couldn't. I mean, I was 20, 22. Like, we don't leave the house until midnight, So that was it. So very quickly, I was like, I gotta do something. Like, I can't stay here. This is crazy. So I decided to go back to grad school because I was like, if I go back to grad school, I can live on campus.
Freedom, I'm out of here.
Let me escape back to school.
But that was the best decision I could have made, honestly. Okay. So I went back to school for grad school, and this time I majored in what I wanted to major in. And so I majored in communications and marketing when I went back for grad school. So that's how I got to communications. Because that really excited me. It really interests me. Even if I didn't become a VJ on BET or, wherever, I could do something. I've always been a really good writer, really good with words. And I knew I could do something with that. I didn't know what. I certainly didn't know that it was going to be working at Ford and global digital communications.
That was smooth. That was smooth as shit. That was smooth. You just caught that motherfucker midair. Put it on. I ain't letting you pass.
Flinch. She didn't even flinch. She was like, boop, threw it right back in. That motherfucker didn't hesitate on the conversation. That kept it going. Like, hold on. Hold on.
You're good. You're good.
Hold on. Wait. You know
this motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking.
She's good. No, she's good. No, she's really good. Fucking good.
Y'all crazy.
She's good.
Like Beyonce, when she trips, she just keep it moving. Ain't no pauses. Ain't no pauses. Gotta keep the shit rolling.
That's a clip.
Keep the show rolling.
We oftentimes when we're younger, our focus is having fun. Mm-hmm. And that's why I asked you that question, because now when you get older, right, you get into your career, you start making some money, you start living good, right?
Yeah.
You start to think about what's really important, right? And when things start to happen, because we see that life is lifing and all these things are happening to people, it starts to make you reflect on like what's more important, making all this money and having a good career and a job or whatever the case may be, or experiencing life to the fullest. So that's why I had asked you that question, because at the stage that we're at, we're like, man, it's about life experiences. You know what I mean? And it's super dope to have money, and who doesn't like to have money? You have more fun when you ain't broke, right? Going to club broke, shit, ain't no fun when you broke, right? When you got a pocket full of money, shit, we do what we want. But when you fast track through that, right? Career, then you can't really, relive those early, 20s and teens when you was like, I'm gonna let it all out. I'm going to Freaknik. I'm going here. You know what I mean? So that's why I asked you that question, because, we need to find that balance with life experiences and developing our career enough to sustain ourselves and eventually a family, you know?
Yeah. Now I do want to be clear. I got all my clubbing in. I did not.
Okay.
I was at the club every Saturday and Friday, right?
Okay.
I didn't miss out on nothing. And I remember I'm a good dancer. Like I'm a dancer. I'm not just like a grinder, I'm a dancer, And so I'll be at the club, I'll be actually I remember going to the club wanting to just dance. And I would specifically look, no joke, for the gay men because they were the ones that weren't going to be trying to grind all up on me. Like I need space. Right. You know what I mean? I'm trying to dance. I'm not trying to like have a baby, I'm trying to dance.
You're good. Yeah.
So no, I definitely got it all because in the gay dudes, they can dance too, so we be going at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did not miss out on my 20s at all.
Because that's what I'm saying. We was talking about, your career in the early 2000s, that was like what we consider the prime of hip hop, for the 99 to 2000. You know what I mean? 99 to 2000.
To this day. If that's not, I was just at a party last week. The song came out. I can't control my body. I don't know. I can't stop it.
That's a grind song, not a dance song. You can't hit him with a pop lock.
No.
You gotta hit him with that thing.
Yeah, no. But yes, no. I mean, yes, you're correct. Like that was the I don't know if the beginnings, but the beginnings of what I remember of like the twerking and like all that stuff and Rough Riders and drop, all that stuff, yes, like Cash Money, all those things. So yes, the prime, I feel like the best time for hip hop.
That's what I said. Golden era for hip hop for me.
Yeah. So we're very lucky to have been had our formative years in that era for sure. But yeah, so I definitely got my partying in, even though I was in the books. I was also out there at the club. So did all that, went back to grad school and graduated from grad school. Grad school took 2 years, graduated from there.
See, there you go again. See, there you go.
Hold on. Grad school takes 2 years. But grad school only takes 2 years. So I took the full time for grad school. I slowed it down in grad school. I will say I have some deeper friendships from grad school than I do from undergrad.
Okay.
Because I was there for the actual amount of time I was supposed to be there. Okay. And so, like I said, after that, I went to, I graduated from there. And I went to work while I was in grad school for a publishing company. Okay. Now, I said I've always been really good at writing and the written word and just all that sort of stuff. And so I needed a job. And so I saw a company hiring for, I can't believe I'm telling you all this. I saw a company.
We getting the story. Hold on, we getting the story. That sounds like third period to me. Here we go. Now, cool, you got to get the school bell. Let's go. I'm ready for the story time.
Yeah. So I went to interview for this publishing company, and they were looking for what they call a final line editor. So a final line editor is someone who, once a book is written, it's already gone through a first round of editing. The final line editor ensures that it's like ready to go to print, right? Okay. So like there's nothing wrong, everything's good, the story makes sense, everything aligns, what have you. So it's like the last stop before it goes to print. So this publishing company was a all-in-one publishing house in Akron, Ohio. Okay. So they managed all of their writers. They printed the actual books right upstairs. Like it was a huge thing. So when I went for the interview, I took the test or whatever. I had the interview. They were like, we think that you would be good for the job. They called me back a couple of days later, offered me the job. I'm like, cool, right? So I go start working. They didn't tell me what kind of books these were though, right? So I get my first book to edit. This book is like 50 Shades of Grey to the 10th power, right? Way out there.
Juicy.
Juicy.
And what was crazy was that their ideal target customer, their average reader, was like a 56-year-old white woman who was single and lived alone. Like, it was just like with cats or whatever. It was just like, but they was getting it in these books. I mean, all kind of crazy stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, like mouth on the floor every time I'm reading another book, One day, so I tell my mom about this. And she's like, I mean, how long are you going to be there? I was like, oh, until I get graduate school and whatever. So one day I'm there, and the owner, who herself was that same demographic, right? That 56-year-old, lady who lives out alone. Now, I should tell you too, that they used to do all the photo shoots for the book covers at the company as well. So they would have all these guys greased up, taking photos.
I'm sorry, I had to. My bad.
Shit.
Where they they'll have with snakes around their necks and whatever, right? One day the owner comes to me and she said, Gwen, I want to offer you an opportunity. I said, what? So I think I'm getting promoted or something. She's like, so we have a book, and the main character is a Black girl. Uh-huh. And we need somebody for the cover.
Wow.
And she's like, would you be interested in being on the cover? Wow. And I'm like, what I gotta be doing? She's like, well, so tell me whatever I gotta wear. And in one sense, I'm kind of flattered that they think I'm cute enough to be on this cover. But on the other hand, I'm like, I don't know if I want my face to be associated with this long term, And so
show me the money. Well,
right. I don't know. I think you got the wardrobe and they pulled out something like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to wear this, just the
the mouth.
Basically, that's what it was. And I'm like, So I'm like, well, how? Because, I was also at this time, I was like 22-ish, 23. And I'm like, I was not who I am today, right? Like now I'm like, we're going to negotiate out the gate, whatever, right? I'm much more comfortable in that. But at that time I was like, oh, well, I don't want anybody to be upset with me if I ask too many questions, So I go to my mom and I say, Mom, they asked me this, what you think? And she was like, out of all the things she could have said, right? All the reasons why I shouldn't do it. Her answer was, well, Gwen, you really got to think about, what if you go into politics one day? Politics?
They'd have bring that shit right up. You think you go against Trump ass, they go, ha ha.
Her mother is very good at mind manipulation. I mean, she's quick with it though.
Politics one day. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go into politics. She's like, well, you never know what life is gonna take you. I mean, you're only in your 20s now, you may change your heart at 40, 50, you never know. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do it, not because of politics, but just because like I'm not comfortable. Like, what if my friends see me? You know what I mean? Or what if I'm dating somebody? He's like, wait a minute, just you,
Kids, you got kids now, right? Like, shit,
man.
Right, tell me about my son. Be like, Mom, is this you?
That would have been hilarious though. Just play this out, right? What if you was dating a guy? You did it. You were dating a guy, and just because things happen out the blue, and you're on a date or something, and somebody actually like walks by, or you see the book with you like,
oh, that's from 50 Shades of Black.
Somebody, obviously the character has a different. They're like, wait, and somebody run up to you like, Ashley, and you're like, who? From the cover, 50 Shades, 50 Shades, darker.
So I didn't do it.
Stupid.
So I did end up doing it. And so I ended up leaving that job because working at that job is when I got hired at Ford. Okay. So I started realizing that I had graduated and I was still working at that job, and they were still paying me what I was making prior to me graduating. And again, at this age, I know it's my responsibility to be like, hey, what's up? Like, I need more money, right? Yeah. But at that time, it was like, I don't want them to be mad at me. How do I even bring this up? And in my mind, in my immaturity at that age, it was, they're supposed to offer me more money, not me advocate for myself, right? And so I was mad, which really was my fault because I didn't say anything about getting more money. So I'm mad because they're not paying me no more money. And I started applying for jobs. And so hence I applied for Ford and didn't really even think that I was fully qualified, just because I was so young and it seemed like such a big title. But I was like, I'm very much a ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of person. No. And so I was like, the worst they can say is no or not contact me back. Let me just try. Message. So I applied, and I ended up getting an email from the person who became my boss, inviting me to Detroit to do an interview, and they said they was gonna fly me to Detroit for the interview. And I'm like, Detroit's like 3 hours away. I could drive there, but if you gonna fly me out, let's go.
You take that flight.
So, like I said, across 5 interviews, and I met a lot of those candidates because the first round of interviews, the first interview was a phone interview. Yeah. And then obviously passed that. And then the second one was in person, and there were a couple hundred people there at that one. So I guess, the first round, a bunch of people got eliminated, several hundred at the second one, several less people, but still several hundred at the second one. By the time we got to the third interview, it was just maybe like 10 of us. And so, across, had to do a couple more interviews and even meet with the CEO and all that sort of stuff. And I got the job. And so, I got to do some, like I said, some really, really cool things. But
I got to ask you real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, sis, but what was that meeting like with the CEO before you get the job? Yeah. What was that meeting like? Yeah, it was actually really cool. So I feel like the meeting with the CEO was a formality, honestly, because it was just like, he ain't about to be, wasting his time interviewing people. That's not his job description. But we met on the top floor of the Ford headquarters, which is in Dearborn, Michigan here. And we had catered lunch. So somebody came in. I mean, it was like what you see in the movies, right? So like somebody showed up with a white tablecloth and like picked the little top off the food, all that sort of stuff, and we were in like the penthouse level of the building. His office was just like, it took up almost the whole floor. It was just gigantic, and he was asking me, so my colleagues tell me, you've done these things. It was just a conversation, kind of like it is now. But of course it was, I was on my, my button up with it, I wasn't loose and lax with it, but it was just like a conversation that he had with me. And was just like, we're really excited about you coming here and how do you feel about moving? Your whole family's in Ohio. I'm like, well, it's really not that far. It's only 2.5, 3 hours away. My parents are really excited, all that sort of stuff. So he asked me if I was okay with the salary, which by that time, I was like, yeah, like I really give me the bread.
Yeah. I was 25 years old. I was making well over 6 figures, at 25 in 2009, so it's like, that's a lot of money now, right? Yeah. They'll loan a lot of money then for a 25-year-old. So yeah, I was excited about it. And I really, really liked him. Like he was probably my favorite person at the company.
We got comments. A lot of comments are coming in, just so you know, like the people love you. We got comments from Instagram saying, were you nervous at that stage, right? Were you nervous? You've made round 1, round 2, you knocked it out, but now you're meeting with the head of the situation.
Yeah.
What was your mindset like? What was your emotions like?
Right? What do you ask in those moments? Would you go too far? Are you too uptight? Are you want to show your personality a little bit? Like, what's that?
Did you wear the three-piece woman suit, no cleavage showing, like
the Janet Jackson? I get lonely.
Hair in the tight bun.
No,
what was that like? Like preparing for that?
For the CEO meeting, I had already gone through several other meetings, right? And so with other people, it was a lot more intense, right? And so like one of the interviews that I was in, maybe you interview 2 or 3, it was like a panel essentially. It was almost like Shark Tank, right? You're basically pitching yourself. That was far more intimidating than when I was talking just to the CEO, because it was just me and him, and there was nobody else in the room. And he just had this really awesome, calm demeanor, almost like a boyish charm, if you will, that just really made me feel very comfortable. But I still knew my place, right? I still knew, like, this ain't your friend, right? This is somebody who you're going to be working for. But yeah, by the time I got to him, I wasn't too nervous. I was just like kind of in disbelief, right? That I had, because honestly, at the publishing company, I was only making $12 an hour. Right. So I went from making $12 an hour to making well over 6 figures in one job
transition. Yeah.
So for me, it was just like, let me not fuck this up. Right. Let me make let me make sure that I do what I'm supposed to do. Of course, my mom, this is like her dream realized, basically, if you live in the Midwest, right, working for an automaker is a big deal, especially if you work at the headquarters, right? So it's like, like my baby made it, that sort of thing. So I'm sure she felt like all of the pushback I used to give her, because me and her used to go at it when I was a teenager. Because I'm a very my sister is very she can be agreeable, especially when it comes to my mom. For me, I'm like, I'm the pushback, so I'm like, me and my mom would have an issue, and my sister would be like, Gwen, just be quiet, just let it ride. And I was like, no, she ain't gonna be talking to me. No.
Mama.
She's like, Gwen, you're not gonna win this. You're not gonna win this. Just let her have, and so so I think for my mom, it was like, all the blood, sweat, and tears that she put into me have, essentially come to fruition, So I wasn't nervous at all.
Okay.
It was just, let me not mess it up. Let me just make sure that I show my personality, but don't, go too far where it's like I'm coming across like unprofessional, basically.
Can I just add something in a moment like that for anybody listening? It's all about perspective and how you take the meeting. If you go in that meeting that you already won, you've already won. You beat out hundreds of candidates. You beat the Shark Tank. You get in that room. You get there and you be yourself. That's the best thing you could do, especially around these CEOs, these powerful business leaders and all that. Like my mentors, stuff like that. How I got my mentors was being myself. They were like, yo, what do you want out of this relationship? I'm like, yo, bro, I want our kids to be at the barbecue together in 5 years. Is that possible? I don't know what else the other shit look like. You know what I'm saying? They're like, I respect you. This guy's good. You know what I'm saying? And then you make it work, but be yourself in those situations.
Yeah, because it's about understanding that they didn't get to that level by accident, right? And they've probably seen and worked with a bunch of people. So if you go in there acting like a fraud or acting like you know more than what you know, they're gonna see right through that anyway. So be yourself. Listen, this is what I'm good at. These are the things that I'm not good at, but I'm willing to work on it. And I think they respect that more than anything. Yeah.
I would say so. Now, once I got the job, like I said in the beginning, it came with all these amazing, cool perks, right? Got to go to the Super Bowl, got to go to the NBA All-Star game, got to do, all these things. But I was also very, very, very tethered to them. Like what they say had to go, like my life was them. And eventually I ended up getting married. And after I got married, I had my son. And I remember doing the math on the amount of time I wasn't either working at or for Ford. And outside of sleep, it was like 2 hours a day. And I was just like, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
Now, in the marriage, I could kind of make it work because it was just me and another adult. But when it came to having a new baby, I was like, this ain't going to work, And I don't recall being clearly pregnant, like out there. And my boss, we had these really heavy laptops that we could take home to do work at home. And I had my own office, right? And the door was locked. And I remember him calling me into his office the next day. And he was like, I noticed you didn't take your laptop home yesterday. And I'm like, well, we had another system that we could log in from a home computer, right? Okay. So I was like, well, I logged in from the other system. I said, oh, okay, because I was just wondering if you were still, if you were connected and if you were going to be able to, get things done because you didn't take your laptop home. And I was just like, why was you in my office? Like, what? Why are you so focused on what I'm doing? Like clearly, and this laptop, I was like, well, the laptop is extremely heavy and it was kind of like antiquated at that time, right? So I'm like, y'all need to get some new laptops, but this is very heavy. I'm clearly fully pregnant and I don't want to be carrying that heavy thing. So I just log in from home. He's like, oh, okay, because let's just make sure that you stay connected. What?
To give them content, like the listeners content, they don't know, like a global communication manager for a brand that large, they need you on call because if something happens tomorrow that messes up our brand sentiment or messes up our valuation on the stock market, some fucking employee did some dickhead shit that's in the news now. We need you to get something out to make sure that we can get our brand reputation. And that is so powerful for the brand because it can make it go up, it can make it go down. Yeah. So for you, it's a big role, a big responsibility, but that's whack of them thinking that too. But I want them to understand what that entails.
Yeah.
I do got a question though. So not too much detail, but it seems like you're really focused. You just got the job. now you meet a new guy, you guys decide to get married. Why start a family so quickly if you're just now like, you know, in your beginning stages of this major role? What was your mindset about that? You didn't think about maybe waiting a little longer because it seemed like you were like career driven already. Most career driven people wait a little longer till they get like more established to start a family. So what was your decision to kind of like, after you got married, it seemed like you started a family pretty early. What was the decision making? Like, what was your thought process on that?
I love these questions. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. Okay. Because I just get the same old stuff every time. But no, this is great.
Not more than the title.
Come on, we seasoned.
I get the same old questions all the time. But no, this is great.
Right.
So actually, I was with him before I got the job at Ford.
Okay.
So I met him when I was still in Ohio.
Okay.
And then I got the job at Ford. He moved with me to Detroit.
Wow.
And
okay.
So we had not been dating very long, actually. We were maybe dating 5 months. And
before you got married?
No, before we got
engaged.
Before we moved.
Oh, before you moved. Okay.
Yeah. And
wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was a point of contention for my family for sure. Because my dad was a man's man, right? He was like, you don't go live on a woman. Like, you know, like, where's your job? You know, that sort of thing. And obviously my ex-husband at the time, well, now ex-husband, but then husband, he didn't have a job. He was moving for me, you know? And so he was like, my dad was like, you need to get a job first and then you move up there. You don't go living on her, you know, that sort of thing. So that was the whole thing. But
I want to shout out him really quickly though, because it takes a lot for men, right? Especially in this generation, to understand that if you're not in position and your woman is in position, to go ahead and support her fully, right? A lot of times society views because of how society is based on, like, the woman has to support the man's dream. And oftentimes the woman's dreams kind of get lost in supporting her man. So I want to just shout him out for, having the courage and the commitment to say, even though we've only been dating for 5 months, I believe in you that much, and this relationship means this much to me, where I'm gonna, uproot myself and move with you. So shout out to him, man. That's a big decision to make.
Yeah. So
you won't be in Stedman. I ain't gonna lie to you. Motherfuckers be friends. Whoever got the play.
Hold on, Stedman live good shit. I'll be a Stedman. Fuck is you talking shit?
We're gonna get Stedman on the show. We get Stedman on.
I'll be a Stedman myself. Let me be a Stedman somebody.
Oh, what we talking about?
What we talking about right now? Right.
So I moved here, and then he and I. So we got engaged after 6 months.
Okay.
So after a year, 5 months in, we moved here. A month later, he proposes. Right, and so. Again, not an exciting time for my family. Like, they were like, what is going on? You only know this dude 6 months. What's that? And so we ended up getting married. And I was okay with getting married. I actually was not planning to have a child at that age.
Gotcha.
Right? So I was on birth control and got pregnant. And so it was not. Shit. It was.
That fucking 0.1 is a killer.
That 1% got you.
It got me. But I had the ring or whatever, the little ring that goes.
Yeah.
Don't use that. Okay. Do not recommend 0 stars on Yelp. Right. I do not recommend. That at all. It don't work.
I dig it.
So anyway, but I mean, I did have a choice to make, right? I could have chosen to terminate the pregnancy, or I could have chosen to keep it.
Right.
And by this time, I was like 28 when I got pregnant. Right. Okay. And so I just felt like, well, I was already done with my clubbing days. Right. By the time I moved to Detroit, the last time I clubbed or went out and hung out and that sort of thing was literally 2 weeks before I moved to Detroit. Okay. Once I moved to Detroit, I didn't even know where to go. Like, I don't know where the clubs are, And so I was kind of done with my club. I had spent, my early my teen years, because we had teen clubs back then. The kids ain't got those no more. Back then we had teen clubs, early 20s, mid 20s, all of that, partying, having a great time. Also, obviously accelerating my education so I could get out of school. So I had my fill of that, right? I was almost 30 at this point. And I just felt like, well, I remember being a child and my mom was 36. And I just felt like when I was a kid, how like I always felt she was really out of touch.
Right.
But again, that's like 36 today is not 36 in the 80s, right? So it's a different era now. But back then she was like the old mom, you know. And I was like, well, you know what? I am married. I have a good job, right? Like I've graduated. I've done all the things, like I said earlier, in the right order, the quote unquote right order, right? So it's like, if there's any time to have a baby, now is probably the best time. Because what if I do get 10 years down the line, I decide to have a baby, and then for whatever reason I can't, you know? So I was like,
makes sense.
You know, had this little dude, you know? So that's why I decided to keep the baby, and, you know, even though I was very early in my career.
Right there, though. Again, life experiences, right? Me and my cousin, we had children young, right?
Yeah.
I had my son at 21 because not by who I wanted, but that was actually the age that I wanted to become a parent for that very same exact reason. Growing up, one of my friends, his mother, we call him a miracle baby. I think his mother was like 42, 43 when she had him. So by the time we was in like junior high school, she was like a grandmother.
Yeah.
And at that point, like you said, she's so far generationally away. The relatability and how you communicate and just, you know, that interaction was not there.
Yeah.
And see, that's what we talk about is very important in today's society with the balance of, do I chase the career? When do I start a family? Because you want to be able to grow with your child as time grows also, and still experience things where you're still the cool mom, right? You don't want to like, nah, mom, you know, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that type of situation, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I had my son, for me, I felt I had him at a really great age. Because like I said, I didn't miss out on my 20s, right? I still did all that. And, you know, like he's 14 now, and like we are so close. Like he tells me stuff he don't even tell like his dad sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like we're so and he's taught me so much, like the unlearning of like do all the time, right? Because like I said, he's gonna take his breaks. And I've had to unlearn a lot of things that I was taught, and we're able to relate on that level. You know what I mean? Like he teaches me things, I teach him things. So and I realized like when he graduates high school, he'll be graduated high school in 4.5 years. Right. And I'll still be like young, you know? I was like, I'll be out here in these streets. Like,
I can't. I'll be in the club 40 and 20. I can't wait.
I'm like, what do we kicking it? You know,
come back home. She gonna come back home. What's up? Gonna be looking at her. She gonna be like,
did you miss me?
She out there. but I do want to ask you, as you explain this.
Yeah,
we're entrepreneurs, right? We talk about that dynamic of the Black family, all that stuff. This is what we talk about. This is what we highlight, champion. Yeah. But I'm curious too. Was like, you don't have to, I don't want you to get into detail, but like, was the success that you had in your career and as an entrepreneur a strain on your relationship?
No.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's a big thing, because we talk to a lot of CMOs, CEOs, women, like we maybe spoke to maybe one or two that's married.
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't married, they're like, it's so difficult for us to find a man, a good Black person, a good Black man to do the XYZ. Sometimes they're intimidated. Like, what do I do when you're the CMO of $1 billion brand? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, see, you asked me about my marriage. You ain't asked me about dating now, right? So we can talk about that now. But yes, as far as my marriage, no, that wasn't a strain on our relationship. We had other issues that just like caused me to be like, I can't be in this anymore, right? But it wasn't at all because of the career.
Did you hook him up? Now that you was in a position of power, if he didn't have a job at that time, did you hook him up? Like, yo, now that I'm, C-level, management level in this company, did you, like, yo, I can get you a job at, at the company, maybe not what I do, but, did you look out for him, or, did he ask you to, like, because that's something that we can do also, right? Like once we get to a certain level, we can reach back and say, well, I can at least get you this if you don't, if you want to do this until you find something else. Was that a conversation?
Yeah, well, he would not have been able to work at the headquarters like I did. I did tell him that they were hiring at the plant.
Factories.
And
yeah, right.
He wasn't interested in working at the plant. He's great now. I mean, he's just like, actually what ended up happening is that he was, and we're divorced now. We have a good relationship, good co-parenting relationship. Shout out to him, all that. But he was really talented at cooking. Like,
Okay.
he could really, really cook. And I was like, you need to go to chef school. Like, what are you doing working for these temp agencies? Like this manual labor stuff. Like, you need to go to chef school. And so, I was a breadwinner, so I was sending him to the Art Institute to learn, culinary. And so that's what he did.
Fire.
I like it.
Fire.
I like it.
So he did. And so that's what so he got here. So he's a chef today. We've been divorced 2013. We've been divorced a long time. But, I guess that seed that I planted, and kind of helping him out when he didn't have it at the time, provided him with a career, and he'll say, you definitely, he'll always say, like, what did he tell me the other day? He was like, you started the car and he drove the car. But basically I started it for him, so he can have the career that he has now. Now he's so he makes over 6 figures himself now, and he's doing well, but yeah.
But is that not the way it should be though? Is that not the way it should be?
If you're married, for sure. Now, if you boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't know about that. But if you married,
but even if you hold on, slow down. Even if you boyfriend, girlfriend, he made a commitment to uproot himself and come, support you. So even if y'all didn't get married, y'all live together. So marriage, the formal certificate, but technically y'all were living almost as husband and wife, doing everything day to day together anyway, right? So why not help this man grow? Because at the end of the day, if he grows, you guys grow as a unit.
The family.
I think that at the age when I was with him, I would agree with you. Okay. I think at this age, I don't know so much because I'm 42, right? So at 42, like when I'm 26, 27, 28, we're probably both growing together, right? Like I expect you to have a whole lot in your 20s. Like, we're still trying to figure it out. I understand how blessed and lucky I was. Like, my story is not normal, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't expect the average person to have what I had at that age, right? So I see these girls now and they'll be like 26 and they're like, yeah, he got to have that. And they're like, girl, you barely got that. Like what are you talking about? So, I didn't expect to be equally yoked with me in that age. At 42, we're no longer building from scratch, right? Like, we're both coming with something, right? So you got to come with something. Now, if we're boyfriend, girlfriend, and we've been in this and I see a future with you, you see a future with me, yeah, I'm going to help you, but I'm not willing, or let me say not willing. I don't want to have to build you from the bottom up. Like, because you're not building me from the bottom up, right? I'm coming with something. I mean, ideally, we are able to kind of join forces like Captain Planet, right? Our forces combined, we are Captain Planet, right? So it's like,
hold on. A lot of our users might not remember Captain Planet, or they might not even have been alive when Captain Planet was on Gwen.
Somebody know. I'm gonna get it.
Captain Planet, but a lot of them might be like, "What the fuck is Captain Planet?"
Yeah. I mean, I still want to be with somebody who I can build something with. Like, I want to build an empire with somebody, but I'm coming with my share of whatever it is, and he's coming with his share, and we're building it together. When we're in our 20s, like, we both at the bottom. We trying to stack something up. So yeah, at that age, for sure, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, we're locked in. I'm gonna help you.
But now with the successes, do you find yourself more guarded? Like, how do you vet that, right? Because motherfuckers come through for every opportunity, right? It could be for the relationship, it could be for the money, it could be for the brand, it could be this. A motherfucker want to be Stedman. He don't do nothing else but want to be Stedman. Like, how do you vet that out? Yeah, you've been a successful Black woman that you are today.
Yeah, well, part of it for me, and it's gonna sound,
keep it real. I usually need to hit a real.
For me, I will say that for me, a lot of it is surrendering it to God and saying, you know what? Because after me and my ex-husband divorced, I was in another relationship with somebody else, and we were together for a long time. And he's an amazing person. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's great. We ran our course, and that was it. But even today, like, I would call him probably one of my closest friends. Like, he's always there for me, whole thing, right? Okay. He had a very close relationship with my son, all that sort of stuff, right? Still does. And so I was in a relationship with that person for a long time. And then I got in one more relationship after that. So, and I will say that after that last relationship ended, I found that I was just kind of like dating people, and it was just like the craziest to be ready stories. Like, it was just like, what the? This don't
no.
This don't happen in real life. This don't happen to people. Like, this don't happen to nobody. Why is it happening to me? You know? Right. And it was just like, my sister would just be like, with her popcorn ready every time I'm calling her, because it's like, some craziness is happening. And I was like, you know what? After the last one, I was like, you know what, God? Clearly, I'm just going to give this to you, because I am not, it's not working out with me running or playing the lead on this. I'm going to run to you. So part of it for me now, I'm able to weed people out sooner, because I just think like I have more discernment. Yeah. But then also, I mean, people, if, you know, here's the thing. People will tell you who they are if you listen. And so many of us are so busy talking and trying to make someone be what we want for ourselves instead of listening to who they are, that we missed out on what they done told us. Message. So if you just shut up sometimes and just let people show you who they are, they generally will. There's very few times that you're completely blindsided, truly, you know. I can say, like, even with my ex-husband, like there were definitely red flags before we got married, but I really liked him and I really wanted to be married. So I was like, love is gonna work it out. It did, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's real. That's what we need to hear. That's what we go through. And the culture, that's why it's so important. We don't want to get invasive and nothing like, but that's what it takes, right? So for you being successful, damn, it's like an hour and 10. We didn't even get to your brand. I'm like, damn. I'm like, God damn. We cooking with grease right now. My bad. But that's why it's important, right? But like, so now that you don't have like, so what was told? Walk us through. Let's get to the brand. Like, walk us through the creation of the brand. Like, what was the one moment that you said at Ford, right? You're working at Ford, 6-figure brand. He's like, I got to bet on myself. What was the aha moment? And just walk us through that whole process, sis.
Yeah. So I love telling this part of the story, because with all of the things that I quote unquote did correctly, you would think like, oh, I just have this like, you know, crystal stair life, right? And everything's going to work out. What happened was I was at Ford and I was there for a couple of years. And then the CEO who brought me in, who, like I said, I just really loved, the company went through a restructuring and he was out. And with that came a bunch of casualties in the way of layoffs. And that was me. Gotcha. So I was laid off. And at the time, this was not an ideal time for me to be laid off, because I was in the midst of my divorce at that time. So although I had this nice, you know, very well-paid salary, my marriage was a bit financially abusive. And I just really, and in addition to other things, right? And so, like I said, no slander to him. He knows what it is, you know, but it was, right? So it was a financially abusive. So we, you know, I was making all this money, but like we didn't really have a lot. In addition to that, I ended up really wanting to get out of that marriage. And so in order for me to get out at a reasonable amount of time, because he wanted to go to trial, like, we ain't got shit. Like, what you want? You know, so what we go to trial for?
He want the dog.
The cars, the kids, the dog. I want it all.
Fluffy is mine.
I got whiskers.
But we went to trial and all that sort of stuff. And so it was, you know, it was expensive, right? So I was paying for my side of the divorce and his side of the divorce, so we could just get out, you know? And so that literally left me with $32. I had $32 in the bank the day that my divorce was final.
Hell no. No.
What? Yes. So that's why when I started the story, and we kind of, you know, went in different directions, right? When I started the story, I said, I did everything the quote unquote right way, right? And then you get to the situation where it's just like, this don't happen to people like me. Like, I graduated from grad school and I went to college and I went, you know, and I'm like realizing at this age, like no one is exempt from like lifing, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was a real reality check for me, because I had always prided myself on being like, you know, I was the smart girl at school. I was in the gifted programs and, you know, all the things. And like, you can have all the education in the world, but if life starts to happen, like, it don't matter. Like, it doesn't discriminate, you know? And so I had $32, suddenly a single mother, no second income in the household. And I had just bought a house, right? I had just bought my house a year prior. So I've got this mortgage now. I've got a baby. I've got no second income. And I got $32. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I am someone, and like, again, this is Women's Month, right? So what do we do? What do women do when they get back into a corner? We tend to, especially Black women, we tend to come out swinging, right? So it's like, what are we going to do? Like, I got time to cry for maybe about 2 days. And then I got to come up with a plan. Like, I can plan through the tears, right? And I basically was like, okay, what can I do? And so while I was still working at Ford, I had got really aware of negative toxic chemicals that were in hair products, specifically through
that's your ex-husband call. She doesn't want to talk to you right now. We'll get your side of the story later. You see what he calling me right now. We'll get your side of the story later.
Yo, y'all gonna give me a
number. Chris, Chris, everybody hates Chris. Listen, we'll get your side of the story later, bud.
Bud.
Love it. You see, he like, bring me on. I want to tell my side of the story.
Once we get a phone call after this, like, so I heard you was talking.
His ears is definitely ringing right now. His ears is ringing. Oh man. I'm gonna tell Chris we gonna call him later.
Name him a name.
You was cooking.
Wait, you know what it is, Gwen? I'm glad that you are open to, really being vulnerable to telling this side of the story, right? This is what our culture needs to see and hear, right? Because they think success is linear. They don't understand it is not linear, right? They don't understand the things that come along with being successful, and then not only being successful, having a regular job, but climbing this ladder where you're, management, C-suite, the strains and everything that you can go through. And then when life hits, how you might have to figure this thing out. So we appreciate you, being vulnerable enough to, tell the story, because the culture needs to hear this, right? Because there's a lot of women right now. I guarantee you there's a lot of women, and there's a lot of men going through relationships right now in your exact same position. Like Cuzzo said, we've had many women and men on this show that were married, that decided to become an entrepreneur, that end up getting divorced because they became an entrepreneur and wasn't bringing in that steady income, right?
Shit, we'll be vulnerable with you. We went through the shit.
Yeah, that's a fact.
We went through the shit. Let's keep it gangster. Like, and when we became entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I asked that question. You know what I'm saying?
I can see how that could be.
Yeah.
Heard of that. I haven't personally experienced that part. Yeah. But I could see that, because it's like, well, where I actually prefer to date entrepreneurs because we understand each other. Right? Like, we understand that, like, some months it's gonna be like we're gonna be having money trees in the backyard. Right. Other months we're gonna be like, it's gonna be ramen noodles and pizza, right? Yeah. So, there's the ups and downs, but that's what kind of like drives the entrepreneur, because you'll work 120 hours a week to avoid working 40 for somebody else, right? Come on. As an entrepreneur. And so,
but the problem is having the relationship before you become an entrepreneur, and how vested you are when you make that decision. So we had relationships before we decided to become entrepreneurs, right? Fully, let me say fully, because I was already an entrepreneur and I had several businesses before. We decided to go all in, but once we decided to go all in, like, we're not doing a 9-to-5 no more.
All in is different. All in entrepreneurship is different.
Yeah, it's a completely different animal. Having a job, using that resources, what you're learning, the money to funnel your dreams, one thing. When you're like, this is all or nothing, that's a completely different animal. So
well, it's a different mindset too, right? I mean, I didn't have that in any relationship I was in, but I can tell you, like, my parents, when they found out I was getting laid off from Ford, they were like, oh, well, go work for GM or go work for Chrysler. And I was like, I think I'm gonna try to start this business. What? Start a business? Are you crazy? You just had a baby, So, but for me, it was like, I'm gonna make it, or I'm gonna make it, or I'm gonna make it, or I'm gonna make it. Ain't no other option. And so but they didn't get it, and so here's my mom's dreams being crushed, right? Like, oh my God.
Understand. If they don't see it, you can't explain it. It can be completely logical.
Yeah.
But we're so delusionally confident as entrepreneurs. Like you said, I'm gonna make it by hook. I know you have. That's why I want to get to the shits with you. Because we've endured some shit. Yeah. And we still going through. We say, and we got a line that we always say, we have 1,000 reasons we could have quit. It's 1,000 reasons why we ain't got to be here on Monday, Wednesday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, podcasting time away from our kids, doing this for the culture. We don't charge nobody. We don't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? We pay for all this shit. Unless we get a couple sponsors here and there, which is up and down, and we getting more natural looks. But outside of that, we funding this shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot, and it's a lot. So, like, you know what I'm saying? I would love to know, like, you looking at the hair care products. First of all, what made you look at the hair care products? Because you're doing any vertical. Yeah.
So I had just watched Chris Rock's movie/documentary called Good Hair. Yeah. And it was it was a joke. I mean, not a joke, but it was a comedy. But at the root of it was like, hey, like Black women have a really hard time with their hair, and y'all putting all these chemicals in your hair and it's causing all these problems. That was the root of it. And what really got me was in the movie, there's this part where Chris is with a chemist, and he takes a tub of he takes a soda can and he puts it into a tub of hair relaxer, and the soda can disintegrates within like 45 minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute. If it does, and I was pregnant at the time, my son. So I'm like, wait a minute. If it does this to a metal can, what's it going to do to my body? Damn! What's it possibly going to do to my baby? Because our skin is porous, and anything you put on it has the potential to go in, even our scalps, right? I'm like, oh no. And when you're pregnant, you're a little bit more emotional, right? So I was like, oh my God, my child's going to disintegrate. Like, I gotta do something else. So I was like, let me figure out how I can go natural. Now, let me say, this is like my third time attempting this natural thing. The first 2 times was a disaster. I got pictures of me from the first couple times, and it was like, yikes. But this third time, I was like, let me try and make something myself. So that's what got me in the house mixing up products for myself. Like, this is the standard things you find online, like mayonnaise and honey and avocados, that sort of stuff. And I was making these products for myself, and my mother, in all her wisdom, she was a master herbalist. Wow. Even though she was her mom, but she knew all about herbs. She was like that girl when it came to herbs. And so I was telling her, like, I was making up this stuff in my house, and I was like, well, I'm trying to like go natural with my hair because I don't want to, have any chemicals enter my body. What can I put with these, this other stuff that I've made up to make it do what I want to do? Yeah. And so she gave me a bunch of suggestions or whatever. And one of them led me down this rabbit hole to this ingredient called Rasul clay, which I discovered was only found in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco. Wow. So I sent off for it. I got it to my house, to my condo at the time. And I mixed it with the other concoction that I had created. And it was like, for me, the first time in my life that I did my hair, and it was like, oh, it was like the gates of heaven had opened. I felt God coming down like a halo around my head, like, oh, And I was like, oh my gosh, look at my hair. Like, I just cannot believe that my hair curled up the way that it did, and it no longer was like dry looking. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. I didn't know my hair had that ability. Right. And so I started using this on myself. This is why I'm still working at Ford, right? I'm still got my job. So this is just a hobby, right? I'm just doing this for myself. And I just loved this like newness I was experiencing with my confidence and my beauty and like my hair. Because for us as women of color, our crowning glory is our hair. Absolutely. Right? Like, we set the trends, we define what's cool, like we make it do what it do, right? And so it's like, for us, how we feel about our hair, I learned, is pretty much a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, because it's so connected, right? There's so many politics involved in our hair, right? There's high self-esteem, there's low self-esteem, there's colorism, there is slavery, right? There is revolution, there's all sorts of like historical things that's wrapped up in our hair. And it's so much a part of who we are that I just realized that by creating these products for myself, how much different I felt. Even though I never felt like I was ugly or anything like that, but just like who I was as a woman became different, right? And my mother and my friends, they would come visit me, my sister, and they would say, what are you using your hair? Your hair looks so good. And I was like, oh, I'll just be making this stuff in my kitchen. And they would ask me if I could bottle some up for them. So I would. It's like no big deal. But next thing I knew after that, their friends and their coworkers were like, what you using? Oh, my sister, my cousin, my daughter, she makes this stuff in her kitchen. And they were asking if they could buy it. I'm like, oh, snap, I got like a little business, right? But I'm still working at Ford. I'm not thinking this is like a thing. You know, this is just something I do, hook my people up here and there. And that was it. And but every time I would do it, every time I would give them the product, and this is at the very early phases of the natural hair wave, right? They would have the same experience that I had. Like, oh my gosh, like I love looking at myself in the mirror now. I can't keep my hands on my hair now. You know, things like the 40, 50, 60-year-olds, like for the first time in 50 or 60 years, you actually liking something that is a part of you. You know what I mean? Like that's revolutionary. And so I loved doing this. So when I got laid off from my job, I was like, this thing gonna have to get monetized because like I gotta make some money, right? Message. I didn't realize it at the time when I was doing it as a hobby. I didn't realize that I was creating proof of concept.
There you go.
And because again, it was just something fun to do. And I'm gonna tell y'all this. I'm not gonna slide over because I know y'all by now, right? So I'm not gonna
I got the bell ready. Here we go. I got the bell ready. Fifth period.
Give me another drink. Shit. This is getting good.
Listen, my didn't do ready to go. I'm ready.
Since I hit.
So I'm in the process of finding out that I'm going to be laid off. I'm going through my divorce. Everything's up in the air with that, and I was still working. So I got laid off, but I knew that I was basically going to have my last day like in a week or so, or 2 weeks, right?
Right.
So I had already been making the products. I knew that I was getting laid off. I was like, I got to turn this into a business.
Right.
So I'm at work on one of my last days and I get a phone call and they say, hello, may I speak with Gwen? And I'm like, it's me, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the lady said, this is whatever her name was from the White House.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm already upset.
Right.
I'll be playing on my phone. You know what I mean?
The White House. How you get my number?
What at work of all places, right?
Right.
I hang up the phone. About 5 minutes later, I get another phone call. Same lady, same number. This is the White House. Please don't hang up. Okay. And she essentially told me that this is 2008. 2012.
Okay.
Wait, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 2012. So Obama's second inauguration. Okay. She basically told me that they were planning the inauguration ball for President Obama and wanted to include my products in the inauguration ball gift bags.
Wow.
And I was like,
hold on. Yeah.
Damn! I don't even know who I am.
Right.
So as luck would have it, like I said, I had this whole proof of concept going on, right?
Right.
And because my friends and their coworkers and stuff have been asking me to buy this stuff, they live out, most of my people at the time lived out of state because I was new to Detroit. And so I had created like this little like makeshift website.
Right.
For people to be able to purchase because I couldn't be sitting at home waiting for phone calls to come in. So I already had a website, I already had packaging, I already had all these things. So apparently someone who worked at the White House, a staffer, had ordered from my website.
Right.
And I didn't know at the time that this was a staffer. I just knew it was, whatever, I package up, send it off in the mail. She had ordered it and loved the products and recommended it in a staff meeting for when they were working on the gift bags for their inauguration ball.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God, this ain't nothing but God.
Right.
Because like, I literally have no press. Nobody knows who I am. I don't even know how anybody in Washington, D.C. will even know who I am.
Right.
So that was a really great thing for me because I got to actually go to the inauguration ball. So, but here's the thing. I had no budget. So like you said, entrepreneur, like you funding this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So they said that they wanted 400 products, 400 of each one of my products in a box set to give away. Right. Now, mind you, I'm bottling everything by hand. I'm labeling all the bottles by hand. I'm filling everything by hand, right? And they needed it within like a week or something like crazy. I'm like, again, remember, I'm going through divorce. I'm a single mom now, so I got a little baby. He wasn't even 2 years old. And I got this like business that has turned into a business I thought was just a hobby. And now I got this enormous opportunity. I gotta show up, right?
Make it hook or crook.
Gotta make it happen.
Instant. It's Shark Tank. I gotta get on Shark Tank. I give you 20 for 500,000 investment. I need this done in a week.
So my coworker, God bless his heart, I told him about this. And he knew I was getting laid off. And he was like, oh God, Gwen, I'm so sorry. He was like my little brother at work. And he was like, oh, Gwen, I'm so sorry. This is happening to you. So I told him what happened with the inauguration ball. He was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. I was like, I got to make all these products. I got to pick my son from daycare. I don't know when I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to stay up to like 5 o'clock in the morning every night doing this. He's like, I'll come over and help you. So I'm like, my guy. So he came over every night for, I think it took us like 4 or 5 days to get it done. And then I overnighted it to Washington, D.C. So he came over after work and, either I would make dinner or he would bring dinner or whatever. And we would sit there. I'll try to put my son to sleep and we would just get to work. And we would be up to like 6 in the morning. We had to be at work at 8. Right. And so we'd just be in the kitchen making everything and packaging it up, putting it like hand printing the labels, hand putting like everything was by hand. There was no automation with this.
Right.
And I remember one time, like, you know what, just forget it. I'm so tired. I got to go to sleep. He's like, Gwen, wake up. You can't. No, get up, Gwen. We got to make this happen. And he had zero skin in the game.
Right.
Like he wasn't getting paid for this. It was just like he wanted to see me win. And like, I love him to death to this day. He really came through for me. And so luckily I was able to, he didn't have a ticket to the inauguration ball. You know what I mean? It was just me. Like he wasn't doing it. Yeah. He just believed in it. And so I sipped him off, went to inauguration ball, got me a little dress. I still got the dress. I ain't worn it since that day, but, yeah. And I mean, I just remember watching as like, I would see like Serena Williams and John Legend walking with the bag that had my products in it, or Beyonce, Jay-Z, it was really cool. So I got to do that. That.
That's a mama I made it moment.
Well, I was about to say, you ain't take your mama? I'd be like, yo, can I bring my mama? Please?
My mom did not fly. If my mom could not get there, she wasn't going nowhere. She don't do boats. She don't do trains. She don't do planes. If she couldn't get there, she's passed away now. But at the time, she's like, no, nope. No, so she wasn't interested in going. She also didn't like to dress up, so she wasn't gonna go no way. She was gonna watch it on TV.
That's like Cuzzo said. I think
that's the mama.
That's your mama I made it moment right there. That's the accumulation of, I know she cried. I know you cried. Like tears of joy. Like
you ready to cry in this shit. Like real shit.
Like how does that even happen? Right? Like like we're talking about like buy pick up a hobby to improve something on yourself and it just gets into the right hands. And then again, word of mouth spreads and you end up at the inauguration. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So that was huge for me.
Wow.
Now I will say that was great for validation,
right?
But it didn't like turn into like sales or anything. You know what I mean? So I still was broke.
The next day like? What was that Monday like?
I'm still broke. Broke, but I was out. But I was again. You come out swinging, right? So like, how we gonna capitalize on this? So I called every local paper, newspaper, magazine, TV show, and I let them know, like, hey, I'm this girl in Detroit, and I'm making this up, taking this to the White House. So I got a lot of press around that. So that helped a lot. And then that actually helped me get into Whole Foods. So I got into Whole Foods. It was just one Whole Foods store at first.
Okay.
But I
hold on. There ain't a Whole Foods in the hood. We're gonna give you the horn. Hold on.
Well, no. This was actually the first Whole Foods in the country that was in the hood.
Oh,
yeah.
We got a few.
It was a big deal at the time because Detroit had the very first Whole Foods that was in the inner city. And so it was like national news. And so I was like, well, if I could just get my products in the Whole Foods, that will make people realize like I'm legit, right? Like I'm not just like this little girl with this little cute, fun hobby. This is like a business, you know? So I got into the one store. That one store turned into 2, 5, 10, 20, what have you, right? And so Whole Foods was like, they really took a big chance on me because my packaging at the time, and even the packaging I included for the inauguration ball, it looked like, I mean, at the time I thought it was good, but looking back, it was like, that wasn't that good. Like, I wish I might, let me see. Let me see if I can find it for you. Hold on.
Listen, let me tell you something. It's the best that you could have done in the moment. And that's all we could do.
This is what we talk about.
It's all we could do. You know what I mean? Get the HP printer, print it out, put the labels on.
So this is the original packaging.
Okay. That's not bad.
I mean, it's not great. You know what I mean? But I was so proud of this because I had created it myself.
You made it yourself. You didn't outsource it.
This is what we look like now, right?
Oh, damn.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Cuddy right there.
Not great, right? But at the time, but you know what I want to say with that, and to anybody who's listening, like I made it in Whole Foods with this.
There it is. That's the message.
So like start where you are and work with what you got. Right. If you don't got like a lot of times we feel like we have to have everything right. It's got to be like pristine, top tier. It's like start where you are, work with what you got, because everything that you have right now is enough to get you where you need to go. Just start. You know,
you beat me to it, cuz you beat me to it. Milliseconds.
I mean, it took some years to get to here, right? But we started here, and this was in my kitchen. Now this is professionally designed, right? This was designed by me in my bedroom with me and my friend putting labels on a bottle. You know, and that got me into my first 20 Whole Foods.
But how does it work with Whole Foods? Because I talk to a lot of e-commerce. We talk to a lot of brands that have been in the stores, like the slotting fees and stuff like that. Like, how does the business work? Because you're coming from communication. This is a different beast now. Yeah. Slotting fees, ROI, how do I stay on shelf space, all of these things. Like, how did you navigate that?
Placement, and are you on the bottom? Are you in the middle?
Yeah, did they let you do in-store promotions? Like, you know what I mean? We got to navigate that shit. And if it don't work on that first round, that determines if I get in 5, 10, 20. Now we at 1,200. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually teach classes on retail because so many people, especially product business owners, are just excited to sign on a dotted line and get into a store, not realizing all that comes with it. Like getting into the store is honestly the easy part. Staying on the shelf is the hard part. And then you can literally go completely broke in retail, especially if the majority of your revenue comes from retail. Like you should never be dependent on retail. Like your website, you need to take care of home. Like you're going to make the most money anyway. You're going to have the highest margins on your own website. You're going to have the least amount of fees on your own website. And so you should be using retail for discovery. So people go to the store, they see your product on the shelf. They're like, oh, this is cool. Make sure you got your website in big bold letters on the back so that they know that they can buy on your website, right? Because ideally you want them to buy on the website. Some people are still going to buy in the stores, but you want to be driving people to your website. I never send anybody to a store unless they ask, right? If they say, hey, where can I find your products locally? Then I'll tell them. But my first move is not to say, oh, go find us in Sally Beauty or go find it because we're in Ulta as well. Go find us in Ulta. No, go find us on naturalicious.net. Like, go find us there.
Wait. I got a question before you go further. Do you purposely price your product cheaper on the website than you do in retail, or is the price point the same? Because that's a great marketing tool also to say, well, if you come to the website, it's $4 to $5 cheaper than if you buy it in the store. What's your price point looking like from your website because it has shipping and stuff like that versus the retail where they can just go and pick it up?
Yeah, so our pricing is the same.
Okay.
So our pricing is already considered, there's different levels of pricing in beauty, right? So there's budget, so like Suave, right? And then there's like mass market. And then there's masstige, and then there's prestige, right? So masstige is like price between mass market and prestige. So it's like right in between there. And then there's prestige, which is like luxury pricing, right? Yeah. We're masstige priced, right? So like a bottle of our shampoo, depending on the size, might be $36, right? So Yeah, so it's like, because it's all, we still make our stuff hand. I mean, I don't make it personally anymore, but my team, we still hand make it. We still hand bottle it. They have machines and stuff to label it and all that stuff now. But, you know, like we're making it like in batches, right? It's not made by a machine, right? And so we take a lot of care, take a lot of care into ensuring like the quality of the product, for example, right? And quite frankly, our stuff works. So, you know, it's like you can go buy Suave or something that's budget and
But how do you determine what category you go in, right? If you say masstige, prestige, right? You know you have a great product that works. Why not go straight to luxury and prestige, right? So how do you know which category to fall into?
Because I knew the stores that I wanted to be in. And I know like my customer is probably not going to shop for hair products at Neiman Marcus. Right. And so, but she will shop at Ulta. Right. So I can charge that at Ulta. I can't charge that price at like Dollar General. Right.
Okay, so that's a great question. Now, there's a lot of budget ending, you know, like budget friendly stores, TJ Maxx and you know Marshalls and stuff like that. If they approach you now, huge chain, right? Another huge chain, but now you already have your pricing. But they say, well, listen, you know, our price point is let's say $10 or $15 lower than what you would charge there. Do you now take that deal, or do you say now I have to pass that up because I don't want to devalue my company's product value by putting it into the stores at a lower price point? How do you go about navigating those type of conversations?
Yeah, y'all have the best questions. So
now you got us excited, sis.
So that's kind of a two-part question, right? So I'll answer in two ways.
Okay.
So the first part is, I'll say Walmart, for example. Walmart is considered a discount retailer, right? Now, in a Target, I know we ain't supposed to be shopping at Target right now, but like at Target, you could charge my prices at Target, right? Okay. You can't charge that at a Walmart and expect to sell through. And so when Walmart approached us, I declined that opportunity because I knew that we would not sell in Walmart. Also, I know the type of customer that shops at Walmart is not, and no shade to them, right? The type of customer that frequents Walmart and specifically goes there for they generally are looking for a deal, right? They're generally looking for something very cheap.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but that's not what we are able to provide. If we were to lower our prices, we will have to significantly lower our quality. And what a lot of consumers unfortunately don't seem to understand is that you can't have high quality and low prices. You got to pick one, right? And so when I see these people online, they're complaining about these hair products that they bought, and they're like, nothing works for my hair. No, you just bought some stuff that's really not designed for you or by anybody who looks like you, and they don't really care. They just want you to buy, right? And so to answer your question, like a Walmart, for example, would not work because the way Walmart's terms work, because at the end of the day, the money is what makes the business survive, right? And so you got to make sure the money is right. And so when it comes to Walmart, the way that they pay is most companies will pay you on terms. So they'll pay you net 30, net 60, net 90. So what have you. Walmart, instead, they pay you when your product sells through. So they pay you when it turns. So if it takes your product 6 months to sell through, you're getting paid in 6 months. If it takes you 10 days, you're getting paid in 10 days. Like it could be really bad or it could be really good. Wow. And so I can't work like that. You know, like I need to know when I'm getting a check in the mail or in deposit into our account so I can pay my team and pay our rent and all that sort of stuff, you know? So on top of the fact that I know that our pricing is beyond the comfort level of an average Walmart shopper, right? Now, when it comes to TJ Maxx or Marshalls or those sorts of stores, you'll see some high-end products at those stores. And the way that they work, and we actually have been approached by TJ Maxx and did business with TJ Maxx and Marshalls. The way that works is they are generally buying when a company has like too much products, right? They're not going to sell through it like on their website or in another store fast enough. These products expire, right? So you got to make sure that either you sell it to somebody like TJ Maxx or Walmart, TJ Maxx or Marshalls, so they'll buy it cheaper, but it's still at a profit. Technically, it's just not as much of a profit, right? So it's like if I'm just using round numbers. If I make my product for $10 and I generally sell it for $30, right?
$20 profit,
right? But again, these are not actual numbers. Just
right.
Yeah.
So Max may come along and say, well, and let's say I sell to a retailer for I sell to the consumer for $30, right?
Right.
All right. So let's say in that case, then a store like a Whole Foods or Ulta, whatever, will buy it for $15. They're going to buy it at half of the price that they sell it for, right? Half of the retail price.
Right.
So if one of them have not come along and bought it yet or placed the purchase order, and if I'm like, okay, we got 2,000 units that we got to sell through in like 45 days, the likelihood of me doing that on the website, maybe not. Is one of these retailers going to purchase this? Oh, they just placed the purchase order. They're probably not going to purchase another 30 days. We got to get rid of this, right? At that point, that's when you start interfacing with a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls, because they'll come in and they'll buy it. Instead of buying it for 15, maybe they'll buy it for 13, right?
10, 11, something like that. You can still get that extra inventory off and you don't have an abundance.
Right. So you're still making a profit. It's just not as much. And so I think that those places have their place. And I don't worry too much about, because we don't do business with them all the time. It's only if you have, or at least for us, if we have a surplus of products.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, they're nice because they'll come in, like, I mean, they'll send a $90,000 check, and it's like, great, like, here you go, but because they're buying so much and they generally, and the nice thing about those stores is that they don't do any buybacks. So if they don't sell through your product, they're not expecting you to buy it back from them.
Wait, and so when they purchase your product, they pay up front. Then we need this amount of units for this price, and they pay up front.
No, they pay when it turns.
They still pay on terms.
Oh, they pay on terms. Okay.
Yeah. So when it turns, so when they go through it, so what she's saying, no buyback. So she might have given them.
No. They don't pay on turns. That's Walmart that pays on turns.
Got it.
They pay net 30, net 60 on term.
Right, term.
On turn and not turn. Got you.
Yeah. So Walmart is the one that I'm like,
Yeah.
Bing bong.
Let me tell you why I asked you that question, because a lot of our society, and I know you know this, we equate the price point of an item with the quality of the item, right?
Yeah.
So more often than not, when you first starting out as an entrepreneur, you don't know what your price point is, right? What is my price point? I'm not L'Oreal. I'm not, you're not these big brands that are charging these prices because they've been established 60, 70 years, but you have a great product. So coming up with your price point is very tricky, because you want to get it out to the masses where it's affordable, where people can use it and continually to subscribe to keep getting more. But you also don't want to be too low, because once you go to a certain low point, you can't go higher, right? If your product was initially in a Dollar Tree or something like that as a $10 shampoo, you turning around and trying to sell it for 30, nobody's gonna buy it, because they're like, how are you, same ingredients, how are you marking it up $20 now, right? Like,
yes, that's a great point. And honestly, I feel like that exact thing has been a huge disservice to the Black hair care industry, because back when I started, the only way to get natural hair care products was from a Black owned business. Like, there was no mass produced, companies. The only one that existed was Carol's daughter. And even she was making it herself, right? At that time. But then, in true form, we create things and we set the trend, and then like other cultures start coming in like, wait a minute, they making money, right? Like, let's figure out how we can tap into this. And so you started seeing relaxer brands come out with natural hair products. And so what those companies were able to do, like the Motions and the Mazzanis of the world, which a lot of people for some reason think are Black owned, but they're not. They're owned by L'Oreal. They can benefit from economies of scale, which is basically, buying a whole lot of products, and therefore getting a very small price. And so they came out the gate with, my price point, that my price is right now is actually around the same price that all the other brands were at that time, right? So we were all around the same. So if you were going to buy a natural hair care shampoo, you were spending $36. You were spending $25. You were maybe spending $50, but you were spending some money, because that those people were making it by hand. In comes Mazzani, Motions, and whomever else, right? ORS, all these other companies. and they're like, oh, they're making money, let's lower the prices, right?
Yeah,
so they came in and they have much lower quality, because again, you can't have high quality and low price, right? You got to pick one. So they will come in with, instead of, you know, charging $35, $36 per shampoo, they're charging $12, right? Significantly less, right? So then the majority of customers, depending on who your customer base is, right? If you're a budget shopper, you're like, oh, I can buy this same thing for $12. They're advertising it, it'll work. Of course, they use it. It doesn't work. They're complaining nothing works for their hair. That's not true. You just use some bullshit products, right? So they, so people are using that, and that becomes commonplace. What I wish had happened, and this is what we did, and I so wish that everyone else had kind of taken the stance. All the Black-owned hair care brands, they decided, oh, we got to compete. And I'm like, you don't got to compete. You ain't never going to win, right? So what did they do? They started lowering their price. So now their price is $12, $13. But you can't have high quality and low prices.
Right.
So you had this super high quality product before. In order for you to be able to meet that price point, you've got to cut your products. Yeah, you got to change some ingredients. You can't use extra virgin olive oil no more. Maybe using regular olive oil, right? Maybe you're not using organic coconut oil, which is actually way better for the hair than refined coconut oil. Now using refined coconut. So the ingredients are the same, but the quality is not, right? So you cut the product. And so
it's not blue magic no more.
It's not that blue magic.
Blue magic.
And so they started changing the ingredients, right? And so now you've got all these businesses that were thriving before that started to struggle, because it's like, well, they trying to keep up with the Joneses over here. And what I really feel like, let them do what they do, right? Because you're winning on quality. They gonna buy those products and realize that stuff ain't working for them. They're gonna have to come back to you. So we maintained our price point. We were highly encouraged to reduce it. And I was like, no, we're gonna keep these prices what they are. And a lot of our competitors, they ended up lowering their price point to try and compete with these lower price budget products. And 90% of those businesses today are out of business.
Wow.
Because
the horns. Hold on.
No, that's major.
Bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. You can't compete. You cannot compete with somebody like a L'Oreal. They're a behemoth, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Let them do what they do over there. Right over here, this is what we provide. We're still Black owned. We are Black owned, not just Black owned, because there's a difference in being Black owned and Black
operated and Black operated.
A lot of companies are Black owned, but they're white controlled. So like a lot of these brands that you see, Target, for example, when the DEI thing happened, right? And everybody's like, boycott Target. How many Black owned brands were online begging people, oh, well, at least just buy from us at Target. Just buy from us and buy the rest of your stuff somewhere else. That means that your bottom line is controlled by them, right? Because now you don't get to say anymore what your values are, because your value is like, I want to ride with the boycott, but you can't, because your money is tied up in Target, and Target's controlling your bottom line. So if people don't buy from Target, then you're out of business. That should never be that way.
Direct to consumer. Wait, I got a couple. Can I just get you one real quick?
No, absolutely. But I just thought of something crazy.
I'm cooking too. I'm cooking.
Go.
Yo, so all right. So I've got a two-part, right? What does the collaboration look like with Black-owned brands, and what does it look like if a L'Oreal does come to approach you? What does acquisition look like?
Well, for me, so we didn't get to this part of the story, but you want to ring your bell? Go ahead and ring the bell.
Yeah, we about to. Come on, now we going. Let's get to this shit.
Let's go.
Sorry, sis, we stuck for hour 30, but we got to get to this shit.
Listen, let's go. She cooked.
I can't speak for other brands. I can only speak for mine.
Please.
So for me, actually, I have to give credit to my mother for this, because when I had first created my product, remember I told you that she was like, you gonna not work for anybody else? You're gonna have a business on your own. What are you doing, right? Yeah. But once she actually used the product that I had created, she was all in on it, right? She gave me, my mom was really, really good with money. Like, we didn't have a lot when I grew up, but she was really good at saving. And so I remember I got a purchase order, my first purchase order from Sally Beauty. It was about $20,000 that I had to come up with in order to make the $40,000 that they were going to give me. So I had to, and so she gave me $17,000.
Wow.
But it was a loan. She was very clear. This is a loan. She made me sign a promissory note.
I love your mama. I love your mama. Love. You signed
like,
right here. You dated right here. These are my terms. I win 3% interest on my money by Monday.
She charged me no interest. She's like, Gwen, I know where you live, and I know. And she's like, if you don't give me my money, you know I will come for you. Like, as soon as I get this check from them, you the first $17,000 I pay back, right? So I paid her money back and everything, but she was the one who was like, Gwen, this product is phenomenal. Right. You need to patent it. You have to patent it. She said trademark, she didn't really know, right? She's like, you need to trademark this. And I was like, you can't really trademark a hair product. And I was like, you need patent? She was like, well, whatever it is, just get it done. And so I was like, well, I don't think you can patent hair products, Ma. Yeah. And she's like, you don't even know. Have you even looked into it? And so I was like, no, but I've never heard anybody patenting hair products before.
Right.
So, and me, I'm thinking I'm all smart. Like, I know more than you. What are you talking about? And so she was on my back about it. Like, she was just like, every time we would talk, which is every couple of days, she'd be like, Gwen, have you looked into the patenting thing? Have you looked into it? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was like, let me just Google this so I can just shut her up and let her know that this is not possible. So I Googled it, and lo and behold, I found it was possible. I'm like, dang. So I got to tell her she's right. So she was like, okay, well, you need to go and patent it. And she, again, the mind manipulation thing, right? She was just very good. She's like, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be sitting at the house with your son, and you're going to be watching TV, and L'Oreal will have a commercial with your stuff on it. And you're going to be mad as hell, but you ain't going to be able to do nothing because you ain't protect yourself. Message.
There it is. Boom.
I could so see that happening, Yeah. And so that was like the kick in the butt to be like, let me try to make this happen. So at the time I was still like broke, freshly divorced, had done the whole inauguration ball thing, but didn't, maybe it was in like 1 or 2 Whole Foods, but wasn't making like a ton of money, enough to sustain myself, but I wasn't balling or nothing. Yeah. And so at the time, I don't know how much it is now, but at the time, this was 2015, 2014 when I started working on it. In order to patent a product or anything, it was around $18,000 to $20,000 just for the lawyer fees. And I only had $32, right? So I'm just like, where am I going to come up with this money? So I end up realizing that I could file for the patent myself for free and only pay like a $300 patent fee. The majority of the fees was for the lawyer.
Yeah, but you got to get that. You got to get it right though, because one mistake and they reject it, and it's a process. Yeah. That's why you pay for the lawyers, to make sure you get it right the first time. That's
a big difference. Shit, 18,300. I'm gonna take my chance.
But it's peace of mind, because it's wording, it's categories. You got to know this shit. Like, you get it wrong, they just gonna reject it.
It goes back to, what do we preach, bro? How bad do you want it?
Yeah, but understand it's also a 2-year process too. Like between a year and 2 years. Like, this patents don't just go. That's why a lot of times you see things, it'll say patent pending. People will still use their product, but they'll let you know that they've already put in for the patent, just in case you were thinking about putting in before. Patent pending, meaning it's processing already, because it is a process. It's only one office that does it down in DC, and they handle all of it. So it's a process. Yeah.
So, and to Jarrett's point, like, how bad do you want it, right? And so I was like, but yes, to your point, it takes time, right? And so it is, if you can hand it off to somebody else, great. But if you only got $32, you ain't got nowhere near $18,000. Like, you got to make it happen. So I was like, okay, well, like, again, I'm gonna ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of person, right? So I'm like, let's try it out. Like, how hard can it be? And so, it was extremely hard, right? And so. It was extremely hard. It was extremely hard. Like,
I told you. I thought you were making it sound like it was easy. I'm like, that's not easy.
No. It's like filing for a trademark. I mean, I filed for so many trademarks on my own. Right. I don't even need a lawyer for that. Copyright, same thing. Patent, that's a little different, right?
Different.
And so, but what I did was, because I just had this vision of like, me working my butt off and somebody else coming in and taking it, right?
Right.
And I would take my son with me to the library, and the library in my city had a whole like intellectual property section, right? And so I basically just viewed it like I was back in college. I was like, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm at the library, and I'm just learning. I'm training myself. I'm finding out what's the history of it, what's on the books now, what might be up for change, how do I write a patent, how do patents tend to get passed, what causes them to get refused, all that sort of stuff. In Detroit, we also have a USPTO, so U.S. Patent and Trademark Satellite Office in Detroit. And so I was there, and they can't tell you what to do, but they can kind of lead you down the right path. So I was there, like just inquisitive, asking them all the time. I ended up filing for my patent and myself. And in about 18 months, I had been granted that patent.
18 months. Yeah, almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. Yeah.
And so that actually made me the first Black woman in history to own a patent on a natural hair care product. And so I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it. I was just filing for a patent. I wasn't trying to.
How did you find out? Did they give you you're the first Black?
Yeah. So when I filed and it went to DC, you have an examiner, right? And so the examiner I don't know if they're technically lawyers or not, but he was an examiner. So he called me. So they physically call you. So he called me and he was like, I have a few questions about your application. And so he needed some clarification on a couple of things. And I gave it to him. And he was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and once you send me this other information, you should be all set. You should be able to get the patent. And I don't know if you know this, but once this patent goes through, there's nobody else that's African-American woman who has a patent on a product like this.
I love it. I fucking love it. I love it.
I was like Madam CJ Walker, Lisa Price, like nobody. I was like, he was like, no, nobody. You'll be the first. Congratulations. I was like,
I'd have called Guinness. I'd have called Guinness right after that. Like, Guinness, I'm the first.
Out of that history.
Yeah. So I need a world record for this
motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm the
So every February, I get lots of calls during Black History Month, which is really cool because I feel like for kids, especially like my son's age and younger, like these Gen Z kids, like for them, all love to what Martin Luther King and Malcolm and all them did for us, right? But for them, it's in black and white. It seems so far away. Like they can't relate to it, And so for them to see somebody or people that are living today that they can actually touch and talk to that have done something historical and profound like that, it puts it in a different perspective, like Black history in a different perspective. It doesn't feel like, it is also not all doom and gloom. It's not civil rights and bus boycotts and people getting dog sick on them, right? All that is relevant and it's a part of our history, but that's not all that we are, And so in school, when you start learning about Black history, we start from slavery. And it's like, no, we started from kings and queens, right? And people like Dr. Charles Drew, who was a doctor, and we have Lewis Latimer, and we have all these other people, but they always want to talk about the doom and the gloom, and I just feel like as a Black child, it just makes you feel like your existence is doom and gloom. And it's like, no, let's show them some people today who have done some amazing things. So I'm always happy when I get phone calls and interview requests during Black History Month, because it's like, even my son, like I remember in kindergarten, he on his own, this was no coaxing from me, he decided to do me for Black History Month.
I got to part harder.
We're not working hard enough because
I'm about to part harder, man.
We don't get no sleep as it is. I went to sleep at 4 a.m, but I guess I got to go to sleep at 5 a.m.
I go to 5 a.m. But to answer your question, though, your question was about if L'Oreal came along, right? So I led up with the whole patent thing for this reason. So if L'Oreal were to approach me, first of all, it depends on the check, right? I can't, you give me $1 billion, I can't promise you that I ain't gonna sell. I might be like, it is what it is.
If I raise up, gonna be trouble.
Oh shit!
But here's the thing: when it comes to my brand, when it comes to my brand, and it's what I tell people all the time: ownership is so key. It's one thing to be Black owned, but it's also another thing to be not just Black operated, but Black controlled, right? Is your bottom line controlled by you? If someone comes to me of any company and says, hey, we want to buy your company, one, I have the bottom line to ensure that I can walk away from that deal if it doesn't make sense for us, or I can take that deal if I decide it's good for us, right? I'm not in a desperate situation where I have to sell it, right? But that's also because I've ensured that we are Black controlled. We control our bottom line. Yes, we're in these other stores, but honestly, if any of those stores dropped us today, we'd be just fine because our website is tight, right? The other things too is that I own the patent, right? So I could sell the company, but still own the business.
License it out.
It is
license it out. That's why I was a distributor like Target. Like they got their own personal store-bought brand, right? They got the Target brand stuff. They got their own thing. They can actually license your product, put it under their moniker, and you still sell, and you whitelist it. That's what we do. We whitelist our services.
Exactly.
So that was the question I was gonna lead to. A lot of brands, when they want to create I don't want to say like a lesser quality of the product, but when they want to lower their price point without diminishing where that company has already established themselves, what they do is they just create another company that's owned by them that you don't actually know technically is owned by them, and then they push the product out at the lower price point, but they still own it, right? So big businesses do that today. So when a lot of these companies, you said, lowered their price point, I was thinking like, well, why don't you guys come together and say, hey, let's just create a different company at a lower price point and still ensure that we're still delivering, the majority of the great products that we can, but it doesn't diminish the parent company's worth, right? And look, we talk about you being at Ford and things of that nature. That's the biggest example of companies that do it. The motor industry, right? Toyota owns Lexus, right? So Toyota's the mid brand, but Lexus is the luxury brand. GM owns Cadillac. They own Chevy, right? And it's different price points, same company, but you're buying from a different company. And a lot of people that don't know who the parent company is end up developing brand love for that subsequent company, not even realizing that you actually love the parent company because we actually created. Yeah,
absolutely. 100% correct.
This is a masterclass. We're going crazy, y'all. Everybody going crazy.
I love it. I just want to tell you something, Gwen. Like the comments have been, we can't even keep up with the comments. The comments are flying in. People are engaged. This has been 2 hours, easy, nonstop. And I'm telling you, you are making a difference, right?
Yeah, inspiration.
I'm telling you, people are commenting right now, like, wow, what an amazing story. You know what I mean? Like, I love her, like she's dropping gems. This was a masterclass in not only business, but perseverance, believing in yourself, right? And being willing to bet on yourself and take that chance and saying, I know what I have and I'm not going to diminish it for nobody. So
yeah, absolutely. I have one thing that I want to share. I would love with all the things we talked about. Yes, I have a business, but I also had a business after that failed miserably. Right. Okay. And so I love to talk about that because I feel like entrepreneurs don't talk about the failures. It's just like, I started a business and I struggled for a little bit and then like I blew up, and it's just like a lot of times if you're an entrepreneur at heart, like you're starting other businesses, right? Yep. Because it's like I have Naturalicious and that business honestly is at a point today where it runs itself, right? So it's great. That's where we all want our businesses to go, right? So what happens? It's like you're an entrepreneur, you get the bug, let me start something else, right? So I started the state-of-the-art salon. We only used Naturalicious products in the salon. It was huge. It's like 5,000 square feet. Had a waterfall when you first walked in. It was beautiful, gorgeous. Didn't last a year, right? And cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses. I bought the building, thinking that I was like, okay, well, let me get into real estate. So I bought the commercial building. When I bought the building, the interest rates were low. When I had to sell it, interest rates were high. So I was underwater on the building. It was all kind of stuff, right? And that was such a low point for me. It was such a dark hole because I've always prided myself on being like financially responsible. And it was just like, how did this happen? Here I am yet again. Right. When I started Naturalicious, I had $32. I came up from that. Now I started the other business. Here I go again. Now I'm in debt. Like, this is crazy. Like, how many times are you going to do this? Right. And I remember at the time I had the last person I was in a relationship with, we broke up, and not because of the business, because of other things. Okay. And it was like I was going through the breakup and the business was closing at the same time. So I had all this loss. And my mom had died just like 6 months prior to that. Damn. So I had like all this loss at one time. And I remember like crying about it on Instagram because I believe in transparency, right? Yeah, like, look, everything ain't always peaches and cream. Like, as entrepreneurs, I feel like you always have to be on. You always got to be smiling. Everything got to be great all the time. Like, no, shit is really hard right now, Yeah. And I remember crying about it. And then my realtor who sold me the building that I was now underwater on, she called me and she was like, hey, I'm really sorry that you're going through everything that you're going through. Like, my heart goes out to you. What is your plan? And I was like, I really ain't got no plan.
Right.
You know, like, I don't got no plan. My plan right now is to feel sorry for myself. And she was like, I really think you should come up with a plan. And I was like, girl, if you don't got my phone, like, all I want to do is be sad. And so it made me think, though, like, you really probably should come up with a way out of this, right? You did it before, you can do it again. Unfortunately, I was deeper in the hole this time than I was before, but, you know, we can do it. And so I started to think to myself, well, I can't control that my mom passed away. I had nothing to do with me, right? I can't control that I had to leave this relationship that was no longer working, right? The only thing I can control in this situation is this money, right? I can control trying to get myself out of this like deep debt hole that I'm now in, that I never would have foreseen myself being in. And so I was like, let me just focus on what I have control over. I can't control other people. I can just control myself. So I put together a plan for myself to literally dig myself out that hole. And I mean, I was taking every speaking engagement that was coming to me. I was having sales upon sales on the website. I was like, whatever. I was selling stuff in my house, like whatever I could. I ended up paying off $147,000 in 8 months with that plan that I came up with. And
savage.
He's a beast. He's a savage.
That's when I'm thinking you can't go crazy, huh?
Right.
And then when I ended up talking about it to people, like I was back on Instagram, I was talking about it, and I had people asking me, well, what did you, because I don't got $147,000 to pay off. I only got $5. Like, what did you do? Teach me. And I was like, well, I really don't have the time to be like a coach, you know, to anybody, and nor am I a financial planner. I just know what I did, right?
Right.
So I was like, well, I was getting so many people asking me about, well, how do I pay off? How do I save money? How do I whatever? You know, I'm living paycheck to paycheck now. What can I do? I was like, well, let me start like a YouTube show or something, right? Let me start a podcast. And so that's where the Get Money Show came from, was my way of kind of teaching one to many as opposed to one to one. And I didn't realize so many people were so financially, I don't want to say illiterate, but unsavvy, right?
Yep.
So many people just don't know. A lot of it's because lack of exposure. Some of it is because not prioritizing, right? And a lot of times it's just like not knowing how to do certain things, right? They just don't know certain things exist. And so I started teaching on my show, and that ended up turning into something I do called the Fix My Money Challenge. So the Fix My Money Challenge became this like 5-day money boot camp where we take people from debt payoff all the way to investing in the stock market and getting to build a 7-figure net worth. That then turned into my Rich Friends, which is my paid membership group, which people can come in and be a part of learning the stock market. And it's just been really interesting that at every turn in my career, there's been like this failure that turned into like a business, right? So like I hated my hair, and then I found something that worked for me, and then other people needed it, and that turned into a business. And it was never supposed to be a business. Me finding myself in this ridiculous amount of debt, like somehow turned into me teaching people how to get out of it and helping, like it's all rooted in like helping other people, you know? And so I think a lot of times when people are looking to start a business, they're like, oh, I hear somebody else is doing this, so I should do it too. Like, look at what you're good at. You know, look at like at the end of the day, I'm a teacher, right? And so I was teaching about hair, now I'm teaching about money. And so like, what is your talent? What is your gift, right? And hair is just one vehicle. Money and finances and stock market is another vehicle. But at the end of the day, it's all teaching, right? Yep. So I think when people are starting businesses, like, look at that, because that's going to fulfill you. Like you guys said you up till 4:00. Like you are fulfilled by what you do, because you wouldn't be up till 4:00 every day doing it, right? You would have quit. Like you said, 1,000 reasons why you could have quit, right? You would have been quit.
I wanted to quit yesterday.
Yeah, right. At 4:00, we wanted to quit when we woke up at 9.
8:30, I wanted to quit. Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Man, we got to edit some shit right after this. We going right to editing mode.
Yeah, find something that fulfills you. Find something that brings you joy that you would do. Like I would tell people how I got out of debt and how I did all this stuff and save money and blah 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 blah. Invest in the stock market. I tell people that for free, right? Yeah. But I mean, it's nice to get paid for it too, right? Yeah. But yeah, I would do it for free. And so I am loving the Get Money show and all that I'm doing with it, and it's just so exciting. Like I actually have a keynote that I'm giving next week at Bryant University in Rhode Island. And so I got to fly up there. And one of the things I'm going to be talking to these 20 and 21-year-olds about is, I wish I knew at your age. I wish I knew that, like, when I was in college, I would, not me, but my friends, I remember they all got refund checks, right? And their refund checks would be like $2,000. Right. And we would all go, to the mall, we go to dinners and everything. And I was doing the math, y'all. I'm 42 now. I was 20 at that time, right? Over the course of 4 years, that $2,000 a semester, that's $4,000 a year, right? That's $16,000 total, right? If they had taken that $16,000 and instead of blowing it on dinners for me and the rest of our friend group and trips to Chicago and whatever, trying to audition for BT or whatever, right? If they had taken that $16,000 and put it into the stock market on a low end, today they would have $250,000 just from $16,000. And then if they had left that same amount of money in for another 10 more years, so when we be 52, they will have well over $1 million from that $2,000.
Message.
Like, who's going to teach you that? Nobody's going to teach you that. They're not going to teach you.
Who's going to teach you?
Right. Nobody. Like, keep playing, right? Absolutely not. They're not going to teach you that in high school. And if you know it, that's because a mentor or a parent taught you, or maybe you were smart enough to look it up on your own. But I wish I knew that at their age. And I just so want our people to stop being afraid of these things, because really the stock market is the only thing that people run away from when the prices go down. If Jordan's is on sale, you running towards it. If the concert that you want to go to is on sale, you running towards it. Stock prices go down, everybody gets scared. That's the time to buy. It's on sale, right? And you always hear about, oh my God, the stock market plummeted and it only dropped like 2 points. Oh, stock market crashed. It didn't crash, it dropped 2 points, But nevertheless, so I don't want to belabor this point, but I'm so passionate about teaching specifically people 35 and older, because I feel like the people who are 35 and older, they feel like it's too late. They feel like, oh, well, I could have benefited from compound interest when I was 20, but I'm 35 or I'm 40 or I'm 45 now. It's too late for me. You can still be a millionaire in 20 years if you do the right things at 40 years old.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Message.
And so that's what I love talking about on Get Money Show.
Gwen.
Win
For the win.
Some M's.
Win for the win. Holy
win.
Shit. Ladies and gentlemen, just so y'all know, right?
Classic.
In the green room, right before we started this show, we had a conversation and we we just gonna have a good conversation. We don't know where this shit gonna go. Ain't no pre-scripted questions. And her response was, I'm an open book. Let's go.
Let's take it further back. I got the email 1 o'clock. She said, ain't no red tape. Ask me whatever. I said, God damn. Right. I said, this is going to be a good one. I texted her.
And this was phenomenal.
This is why we created the show.
There it is.
To me of why we created the show. The same way, right? We want to get in touch with our people, right? I used to be a waiter, BBQ, smelling like ribs, getting off the train. I used to look at every single light that was on in my project building and be like, what is the story of each one? Because we all going through it. And that was the reason why, I'm saying, subconsciously, you don't think about, I'm going to start a fucking podcast or something like that. But it's those little moments in your life that lead to this shit, right? And this is what we go through. And the things that we've endured, the same thing that you said, where you got to go to a inaugural ball. We had to go to Rohan Marley's house before Christmas. Really? It's about to drop. Rohan Marley. We are the only people in the world that've done an interview in a Marley's house. All the smoke, drink champs, you name them. We went down there. We duct taping our fucking cardboard boxes. We don't know if it's gonna get through. We pay extra baggage fees. It's all types of shit that's going on. That's all wrong.
Yeah.
Nigga, you
so
$32. We had $32. The baggage fees $100.
And I got mad as a motherfucker. Like, what you mean it's overweight?
You got it. He's about to fly with the fucking luggage. There's all types of shit that they don't understand, but they see the end product.
Yeah.
So with you telling your story, like it inspired the hell out of me. I know inspired the hell out of me. So that's why we're asking questions we ask. Like we understand what you go through. And the fact that you went through it, and this is why the hell we're celebrating you. And you're dope as hell. I don't care what nobody say, and I'm glad you're part of the family now. And I'm glad we call you our sis, and we got a lot of fucking plays coming up. So just we're gonna be in touch.
And I want to let you know, we you know, with your type of story, we this is women's month, so we brought you on during Women's Month, but we would have brought you on anyway. Like let's just be clear. We just did all women this month to highlight our sisters, and we wanted to just highlight you guys all month. We did it last year and it was a success, and we want to continue to do that because we feel like your stories and similar stories to yours do not get told enough, right? So, but we would have brought you on anyway because your story still needs to be told regardless of what name of the month the government put on it and what, you know what I'm saying? Because these stories is what is going to help change the culture. If we don't see people that look like us, right, that we can relate to with the natural, like listen, I'm telling you right now, I know you see these curls up in this motherfucker right here. I saw you with the thing earlier. You was getting it. Ladies and gentlemen, in the green room, just see again, like we transparent in this motherfucker. In the green room, we was talking. I came out with the sponge. Waxing on and I'm waxing off like Mr. Miyagi. I got to get these curls right for the show, right? But you know what? I tell you what, this is what I'm gonna do. Because I've never used any of your products, but guess what? I have natural hair, and guess what? I would love a product made for people like us. So I'm gonna try your product. I'm gonna do a real in-person review on it, and I'm gonna put it up. You understand? Because I want to see what it do. Because you know what I'm saying? I want to see it make my shit luxurious. I get out the shower like. Yeah, I understand, like what we doing, like
She gonna give him the Al Sharpton. He gonna be.
Lord, please don't.
Look. If you get the Al Sharpton, do not promote it.
Please, I am Brooklyn on niggas.
If I get the, I'm a pimp named Slickback. I'm gonna be mad.
You're not gonna be Slickback.
I'm a pimp named Slickback.
It'll get the audience. It'll sell.
I wanna before we end the show, there's a couple of things that we like to do in every show, and we are so honored to do this. So first and foremost, welcome to the More Than the Title family. We want to give you a clap. Welcome to the More Than the Title family. Yes, and let me tell you what that entails. Right, we don't gatekeep. We do not gatekeep. So what that means is now that you are on the show and you are part of the family, you now have access to every single guest. Doesn't matter if they're in the same field as you or not, right? Every single guest that we've had on the show previously and any guest that's upcoming, that's coming on to the show, right? What we like to do is, do we have Gwen's personal number?
I'm about to put it in the chat right
now. Okay, so you see where it says 3 people? You see what it says 3 people on the right-hand side? There's a private chat between just us. If you put your personal number in there, right? What we like to do after every show is we create a group chat with us and the guests, right? That way, if there's anybody that you want to get in contact with, all you do is send us a text and say, hey, I would like to, meet so-and-so. We'll check your schedule. We'll get in contact with them, check their schedule. We'll set up a Zoom call. Once we get on the Zoom call, all of us will introduce you guys, and then we jump off the call. And whatever, we introduce, we break the ice, and we jump off the call, and whatever you guys do after that is on you guys. We don't ask for PC. There's none of that, right? Because this is what we have to do. We have to make connections. We can't gatekeep, right? And we have to ensure that our success is shared, right? Is shared so that we grow as a culture, right? Not as a singularity, as a single individual person, right? So that's step one, right? Now Step 2.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
There's more. Now, if you're ever in New York, right? If you think this was good, our in-persons is crazy. If you're ever doing an event or you're in New York, you said Rhode Island. So when you said Rhode Island, it's not Rhode Island, but it's very close. You know what I was thinking of because she flying into Rhode Island. Nordic Lodge. I was thinking we should go to the Nordic Lodge and we go break a couple lobsters and eat about 6-8 lobsters at the Nordic Lodge.
Where's the Nordic Lodge? Where's that?
In Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island. It's in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Or you can eat lobster, crab, steak, or you can eat for $100 for 2 hours.
The best.
Wow.
And I'm stamping it. The best. All you can eat seafood and just everything buffet. We do it every year, multiple times a year. You would absolutely love it. So when you said Rhode Island, I'm starting to.
We'll meet you there. We 3.5 away.
We about to drive up. We about to meet you there. Let's go have some lunch. So we wanted to do that. And there's a lot of people, and like I said, you have so many comments and just so much engagement. I'm guaranteeing you there's people that's going to want to reach out to your organization and reach out to you and want to connect and join the things that you're doing. Can you please tell the people what's the easiest way to get in contact with you via social media or the website? Give them the information so that they could go ahead and get your products, number one, and or get in contact with you for the mentorships and the teachings that you do.
Yeah, so I'm very easy to find. I am The Gwen Show pretty much everywhere. So The Gwen Show. On Facebook, I'm Gwen Jimmere, but Instagram, TikTok, I'm The Gwen Show. So my name, The GWEN Show. Yep. And then on YouTube, however, I am The Get Money Show. So just like underneath my name on the screen, it says The Get Money Show. If you just search for The Get Money Show or Gwen Jimmere on YouTube, you will find me. Please subscribe. I'm trying to get, my show is relatively new, but I'm at like 8,500. I'm trying to get to 10,000. So like, help me get there, y'all, please.
I love it.
But it's super valuable. Like I said, things that you will never ever learn. And no matter what age you are, it's never too late to start. You can still, literally have $1 million plus. I was just with my homeboy the other day. He's about to retire from the Navy. And he was saying, he's got about $7,000 coming in from the Navy. And he's also worked somewhere else. And I was like, well, do you really need that $7,000? He was like, no, but we be taking trips. I'm like, you can take the trips. Like, I'm here for living life, right? But here's what it's going to look like if you could live off of that money you make from your job and bank that $7,000.
Right.
Talk about
He's 45. Right. At 65, he will have $7 million. If he
I'm calling you tomorrow.
Listen,
and that's telling everybody the hoodie coming off the chain, the watches. Gwen, I'm calling you tomorrow.
That's not even me. That's me being conservative, right? The stock market on average makes about 8 to 10% return per year, right? There are obviously some vehicles that can get you 12, 15%, what have you, right? But on a very conservative level, that's what he would have. So if we had a year like 2024 where the stock market was 24%, like he gonna kill it on those years, And I'm like, the problem is that we are so focused on the now, right? Like we like, oh, I need this bag now. I need this trip now. I need to like I have been a lot of places in the world. Right. And so I'm here for the traveling, right? Like I am an and person. I don't want an or life. I want an and life. I want to do this and that, not this or that. Right. Message. I get it. Right. But we also have to think about I don't know how old y'all are, but let's say anybody who's watching 40 years old, right? Is 60-year-old you gonna be proud of 40-year-old?
See, they're calling me already. The Gwen Show. Didn't we just the Gwen Show? Go online, subscribe, like the Gwen Show. I'm not giving you the source. The Gwen Show. Gwen Jimmere, go find her. Like they calling us already. You see, this is crazy.
It's probably Chris again.
Chris though. I ain't gonna Chris. Chris is like, I gotta tell my side of the story.
Chris trying to spin the block.
Listen, hold up. I'm just Gwen. I know we just met and all that, but if you get a hey big head text, if you get a couple hey big head texts after this show, I
be respectful, y'all.
Be respectful.
Be respectful, y'all. She part of the family. We kick your ass. It's real shit.
But it's like like I'm so passionate about it because it's like we can win, right? Like you can have your cake and eat it too. Like even if you just put in $100 a month, that's oh my gosh, like people don't even know what they will have.
Right.
And you will be so proud of yourself if you did that. But it's way too many people dying, having to get GoFundMes. It's too many of us not passing anything on to our children.
Right.
Far too many of us. We dying with debt. We passing on debt, not assets. And we just got to stop that.
And see, that's why this show is created, because see, that's why we don't gatekeep right there. You see, if we don't know, we don't know. And because of the fact that we are flooded so many times on social media, in the newspapers, on the news with so many negative things, not positive things. When the last time you seen CNN, NBC, CBS talk about, yo, put money in the stock market? They know that shit because all of them are rich from it, but they're not going to put that shit on the news because that's not what sells. Clickbait sells, negativity sells, right? Violence sells. So they're not going to put that on there. That's why these type of shows are essential, because we have to keep hearing it repeatedly, because we're being flooded and overloaded so much every single day with the negativity that is drowning out the 1 or 2 positive messages that we are getting through.
But can I just say, the positive ones are boring as fuck. The only place you're going to get this shit right here, where we sit there drinking dindu, smoking a split, doing what we do, and we talking business shit, entrepreneurship, raising our kids, doing the right thing, and you can get it where it's digestible.
Yeah.
Where it's digestible. Yeah. This is why we can have a Dr. Matthew Knows. That's why we can have a Gwen. That's why we can have Tariq Hassan, the CMO of McDonald's, coming on in 2 weeks. Make sure y'all pull up. And we doing this shit from the couch.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
I love it. Y'all are so cool. I just love y'all.
We not reduce family now.
I'm listening. So, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take the motherfucking shades off.
Please do it, man. Talk.
Motherfuckers. Listen, man. I told y'all at the beginning of the show, phenomenal. I said the word phenomenal. And we delivered 2.5 hours of straight heat, straight jewel dropping. No interruptions, no dead space, none of that. You understand what I'm saying? This woman came on and she was vulnerable. She told you about her successes. She told you about her failures, not only in business, but in her personal life, relationships, right? She told you about her support system, which we all know is essential to you being able to have any levels of success. Your support system, the people around you, helping you, championing you. You understand what I'm saying? She told you that she went to school, graduated, she partied, she did the partying, but she still was focused. You understand what I'm saying? And that's how we like to end off every show. She reiterates everything we say at the end of every single show. The dream is free.
But the hustle is so separately, y'all. Y'all know the vibe, man. We're going to see how that falls.
Motherfucking haircare products. I'm letting y'all know right now.
We're doing the hood with the Naturalicious. Wifey about to
come. I'm about to be a pimp named Slickback. Only here, only on More Than the Title, your favorite podcast. Nobody else is doing it like us because y'all can't fuck with us. Yo, Cuzzo, what we got coming up next week? Matter of fact, what we got coming up tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we got Doris Taylor, CMO, William & Mary Law. Anisha Lomax, SVP of Digital. She handles all of Sephora's branding. Next Thursday, we've got the CEO of Black Week, Monique Nelson, also the SVP of UWG. Then on the first, we got the CEO of Con. The Oscars of Advertising is coming to your doorstep. Then on the third, we got McDonald's, Tariq Hassan pulling up, the CMO. Then on the 8th, we got our boy Ash Cash. Then we got
Let's go, baby.
And then 420, remember, Rohan Marley, exclusive in the living room. YG, everybody, Nico, everybody was in the building, man. We're going to do it. Us. Who else?
No, it is, man. We're going to see y'all tomorrow. Another phenomenal episode with another phenomenal guest. More Than the Title. You know what it is. See y'all tomorrow.
Yeah.